It is now 5:34, according to the clock in this room, and I'm going to call to order the Select Board of Monday, August 17th. And our first agenda item is actually to move into executive session, so I'm going to ask Cameron to read a motion for that purpose.
Yeah, so I'm going to put forward a motion to enter into executive session under MGL, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body with relation to MCI Concord, and a joint meeting with the Concord Housing Development Corporation Board to reconvene in open session at the end of the executive session.
Thank you, Cameron, and I do attest to the fact that I'm declaring that we need this executive session for the reason you noted. So we need a roll call vote to go into executive session. Because
Mr. Banfield?
Aye.
Mr. Bohm?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman?
Yes.
Ms. Ravelli?
Aye.
Mr. McKennett? Aye.
So we're going to move on in our public session of our agenda. We're going to start with public comments. And I'll just note, if there's a member of the public that would like to make a comment, please use the raise hand function. Public comments are usually limited to 3 minutes per person, and we're reserved we have about 15 minutes for public comments. I am not seeing any hands raised. Is there anybody in the room that would like to make a comment?
What about Devin? They were here. Should we go
Yeah.
back up and tell them?
Well, they live around the corner, so I don't know. Are they here? Did you guys see anybody else around the corner? Do you want to just check?
It's okay. I'll go check. The people who were here when we started.
Yeah. We had some people here earlier before we started and went into executive session, and they left, and we expected them to come back. But they live around the corner, so I think they'll be here soon. Okay, I'm just going to wait for Mary to return. Yep. They get it. Okay. Well, they might be online. I don't know. Okay. So I was going to open public session, open comments. There were none online. Anyone in the room have any public comments for things not on the agenda? No? Okay. All right, then let's move along on the agenda. We have the consent agenda. Cameron?
Is there any discussion?
I have none.
Then I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented in the meeting packet.
All in favor? Oh, wait,
Do we need to
can't
do
do
a roll
that.
call?
We have to do a roll call. Dean is remote. Wait, is Dean here? There's Dean. Yay, Dean.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Banfield?
Aye.
Mr. Bohm?
Aye.
Ms. Hartman?
Aye.
Ms. Ravelli?
Aye.
Mr. McKennett? Aye.
Great. Thank you.
Select Board appointments. I'm going to make a motion to approve the appointment of the following 20 voters as election officers for terms to expire July 31st, 2027. Stephen Bader, 7 River Street, Beth Berryhams, 149 Central Street. Merrill Baudet, 180 Thoreau Street. Susan Boyle, 78 Forest Ridge Road, number 101. Beverly Bryant, 175 Conant Street. Maura Clark, 85 Walden Street. Elizabeth Copley, 8 Concord Green. Leslie A. Flynn, 125 Central Street. Morgan Hallion, 22 4th Street, Westford, Mass. Robert Hilsinger, 102 Central Street. Julie Hirschler Marchand, 1381 Main Street. Nancy Kerr, 25 Upland Road. Linda McCutcheon, 861 Barrett's Mill Road. Lance Ramshaw, 106 Alden Road. Sandra Shelsey, 9 Edmonds Road. Holly Sheridan Pritchard, 1 York Ave, Westford, Mass. Moira Tenhove, 187 Oak Hill Circle. Ron Tenhove, 187 Oak Hill Circle. Laura Venisi, 558 Bedford Street. And Leslie Varengo Tao, 111 Lawsbrook Road.
Very good. Any discussion? No? Is there a second for that motion?
Second?
Roll
All right,
call
roll call vote.
Mr. Banfield.
Dean?
Oh, I'm sorry. Aye. I didn't get my name. There was a glitch
Mr.
there. I
Bohm.
didn't get my name.
Aye.
Yep.
Ms. Hartman.
Aye.
Ms. Ravelli.
Aye.
Mr. McKennett. Aye.
Okay.
Before we move on to the chair's report,
Yes.
can we back up and just say thank you for the gifts and the donations publicly that were in the consent agenda?
Yes, there was $3,000 for the gift from the Rotary Club of Concord to produce the sandbox structure at the Hunt Recreation Center. That's going to be a big hit, I'm sure. And then also recognizing the contribution for $1,400 to the Council of Aging from Daphne Henderson, and also $500 gift to the BD Swim and Fitness Center from Robert Marquis. So yes, thank you very much to those.
Yes, thank you. for
Thanks.
those.
And then moving along, sort of in the same vein from the chair's report, I want to note, we often, as we just discussed, we acknowledge gifts and donations in our consent agenda, but I also want to acknowledge a very generous, what we're calling a grant, to the Concord Public Friends from the Friends of the Concord Public Library in an amount of $40,000. That is quite a contribution. So thank you to the Friends. I just know we typically have treated this as a gift, but because this is something that happens on a recurring basis, we're now classifying this donation, if you will, as a grant. So I'm just calling that out here in the chair's report, just to make sure that people are aware of that change in policy, and also to thank the Friends of Concord Public Library for that donation. It's going to go a long way, so thank you. I have just two other quick updates. Well, one you actually heard of, but I'm just going to mention it for the public. The MCI Concord project is anticipating that we're going to have a joint meeting with the planning board, the master plan committee, and the select board on October 20th for a presentation on proposed zoning at MCI. And maybe Elisa will probably comment that again later in the agenda, but for the board to make sure they've got that in their calendars for October 20th. Of course, that's the day after. That's a Tuesday. So, and then I also just want to acknowledge something. We got a letter sent to the select board today, this past week, asking why we'd not commented on a letter that's been circulating informally in the community. The letter was from Carl Hoyt, who's raised concerns about social bias in the community and the town's actions related to anti-bias education practices and policies. And I just want to note a couple things for the public in that regards. First, this letter has not, and still has not, been forwarded formally to the select board, but a lot of people are asking about it, so I'm commenting. However, I also want to reiterate that the select board is committed to addressing social bias in the community, and you're going to hear a lot more about that later tonight when we talk about our select board goals. And in addition to that, I want to note that the chairs of the select board, school committee, DEI commission, and the town manager and superintendent are committed to continuing some quarterly meetings that have been happening, and we're going to continue those as the year progresses. And I think we've referred to that as Concord United, sort of just a term we're using for the meetings that we're having there. So we definitely, as a leadership group, are committed to addressing these concerns. Okay, and that's it for my chair's report. And Carrie, I know you are just back from vacation, so.
I do have a few things that I want to mention to the board, so good evening. I wanted to acknowledge the recent appointment of Patrol Officer Brendan Fitzgerald to the rank of Sergeant. Brendan was promoted last week. He is a lifelong resident of Concord, a graduate of the Concord school system. He's been with the department for about 5 years, so we're excited to be able to make that appointment. I also would like to acknowledge the upcoming retirement of Tom Ford. Tom works in our water and sewer division. He's been with the town of Concord for 40 years, so he's one of our longest serving employees, and he will be retiring again at the beginning of next month. Our paving project continues. We have paving occurring at Bedford Street, Route 62, near the Hunt Gym, and at Stowe Street, or Stowe Street at the Hunt Gym. I would like to acknowledge and thank our Recreation Department. Our summer camp concluded last week, as did our White Pond swimming activities. Our own internal goal-setting project for fiscal 27 will be kicking off shortly after the select board adopts its goals. So that is an internal process that we run with our non-union employees and identify, each non-union employee identifies 2 goals in support of select board goals. And we will be making periodic presentations to you throughout the year on status. I know the Select Board is aware, but just so the public is also aware, the Novo 40B development issued building permits last week. So there are two buildings related to that project, and permit fees were paid in full. For the first building in the amount of $338,709, and for the second building, $395,424. We do expect issuance of the Thoreau 40B building permit in the near future. In terms of the middle school solar project, our light plant staff continue to work with school administration. Right now, we're investigating a couple of different procurement issues. So this is a very unique project, and the partnerships have changed over time. So we're checking into a couple of procurement issues. And we are moving forward with the solar project at the landfill. I believe that was mentioned at last week as well. I did want to just take a minute to acknowledge that the August 26 monthly project report is in the packet. There is a QR code on the front. There's a 5-minute audio that goes along with that for anybody who would want to listen along. The audio is pretty good, but I would ask people who are listening to it to remember it is AI generated at this point, so there are some pronunciation issues. Kai's Road is not pronounced properly. PFAS is PFAS. We will be working on that, but we are relying on AI right now to generate that. So in the August report, I'll just highlight that we are reporting on 77 projects across 8 departments. There are 12 cross-department initiatives. There are 2 new projects receiving reports this month. I think it's page 25 in your agenda packet, you can see the project count by department. So our Public Works Department is leading projects with 22 active right now, followed by IT, which has 14 projects. Community Development has 13. Our spotlight project for the month of August is the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, the underpass mural, which the board is familiar with that. We are still awaiting final approval from Mass DOT. And then there is we're sort of following along the same format, so the next couple of pages you can see each of the larger projects, and they're identified with green, which means they are moving along as projected, yellow where we have issues that we are tracking more closely, and we don't have anything in red for this month. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Yeah, I have one question on the, do you have an update on the timing of the Main Street, Baker Street, Cottage Street? Because I thought at one time it was supposed to be completed by the end of the year. There was some funding restrictions. Do you have an update on? Yeah, so
there is something in the packet.
Oh, it's in there, but I mean, the design is in there, but it doesn't speak to the timing.
I would have to check on the timing. I know the major issue there is additional feedback from public coming late in the process that was incorporated into the design, so that has slowed the project down.
You're right. It was about bicycle.
Yeah.
Bicycle. Right.
Yeah. So I can follow up with the town engineer on an updated timetable for construction.
Thank you, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was delayed, but it's a better design. I have 2 questions.
Yeah, Mayor.
Carrie, when Novo's got their building permit, do we know when they'll actually start to break ground?
Well, they started some site work before issuance of building permit, so I don't know. Elise, do you have an update on?
Yeah, they'll be doing site work for the next 8 to 9 months, and then at that point, I think they'll be ready to do foundation work and more building type work.
Did you say 8 to 9 months?
Yes, they'll be doing site work for 8 to 9 months.
So
Okay.
just for the public, just because Elisa, you're in the audience. So what Elisa was saying is that there'll be site work for the next 8 to 9 months before more formal construction actually starts.
Okay, good. And then the other thing, I remember Carrie, we asked about some updates on the roof for the Beatty Center.
Yep.
And
That was
other,
in
is that? I didn't
It
see
is-
that.
It's in
was
here,
something
it's in
in
here.
It is
Yeah.
in
I
there.
missed that. I
Let
missed
me
that
see.
totally.
So the masonry work has been completed, and the roof restoration and replacement work continues. So I can provide some additional information, but that project is
What is
underway.
it, what category is that in?
Library and Human Services,
Okay, that's why I missed it.
yeah. Recreation is part of
Okay,
Human
thanks.
Services.
Thank you.
And then, Carrie, it reminds me, at one point, and not immediately, but we want to get sort of an update on just wastewater treatment plant activity, which was sort of
Yeah.
future discussion.
I did notice in the report, there's a little bit of information,
Yeah.
but some additional information I think is needed.
Yeah.
And the water filtration plant,
Yeah,
again,
that's what
a
I meant.
little information, but probably not as
Yeah.
much as we'd like to see there.
Well, and maybe it's just a separate presentation for the select board.
Just one last question. The MWRA Metro West water supply expansion, it's a long-range project.
It is.
Is that, so that's ongoing? What's the frequency, what's the nature of that interaction with other communities?
I would say Maynard is the lead agency on that. The meetings are, maybe quarterly is probably the frequency at which the group is meeting and working with a consultant who's doing some work in between the meeting times.
I mentioned,
How broad is that group, Carrie? What range of towns is included in that group?
Yeah, to the best of my recollection, it is Concord, Maynard, Acton, and I'm not sure beyond that. I'd have to check.
I'm personally aware that Wayland is also having conversations about
Yeah, okay.
joining the MWRA.
I mean, it is a long term, and our land use working group planning is also long range. We haven't really thought about the requirements, the land requirements for that conversion. I know there's big tankage requirements. I'm just kind of wondering when does that need hit us? It's probably within the next decade, right? So-
I would think that would be optimistic. I mean,
Yes.
Okay.
this project has always been presented as a 20-year
Yeah.
project, or
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of infrastructure you
Yeah.
should understand. Okay.
I do think that would be, at some point, when you have time on the agenda, maybe a joint session with PWC on a number of these issues, I think might be helpful.
Okay, good idea. Great.
I want to go back. I'm sorry, Karen.
Mary?
No, go ahead, Wayne.
Yeah.
Mary,
So
sorry.
I found it now, the Beatty Center, and I'll have to say that it's here, but it's not very informative, really.
Yeah.
It's basically saying the work continues. So I'm
Yeah.
wondering if we could have something that actually shows milestones or end dates, because this has been going on for almost, since the beginning of the year, and it literally rains in the Beatty Center.
Yeah. So
Something a little bit more definitive as far as when the work will be completed, as opposed to just something saying it's continuing, would be helpful.
Yeah. I should have mentioned one of the conversations, there is a database behind this, and one of the challenges is to try to pull out enough information to give the casual observer what they're looking for. We are looking at making the database publicly accessible, so if people want to drill in to find some more information, they could do that. But point taken on, you'd like to see a little bit more on Beatty. And we can do that.
Yes. Not just for the public, but for the select board as well.
Yeah.
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 Okay, good.
Cameron?
I just have one, on the roads, so it's bids received for $9 million 2-year program. There's been a lot of road activity going on already, so
Yeah.
just, do we have an existing contract that's expiring, and it's a bid for the 2 years that follow? What it just
No,
sort of?
we are inside of a 2-year contract and working against that. We have 2 contracts, one for that we've identified at North and South, and we are inside of both of those contracts doing work over the next 2 construction seasons.
So this is part of the 5-year authorization?
So these
It
bids
is.
are for the 2 years that follow?
No, what is being reported is just that there were bids.
All right.
So the work that's
I'm a little
ongoing is
confused.
within the bids that were approved and awarded,
Yeah.
right? And it's just a 2-year contract, and there'll be another one in another year or 2, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
All right,
again,
Sorry, but I'm just not following that, because it says the next milestone is award 2-year paving contracts and prepare for construction.
and that
And that bids were, the major milestone that happened this month is that bids were received for a $9 million 2-year program. So I was just trying to follow.
that is likely something that needs an edit
Okay,
then.
all right, thank you.
All right. That's it, Carrie?
That is, thank you very much.
Okay, no, thank you. All right, so next on our agenda is an update on the MCI Concord project, and I see Elisa's here. I have to come to the table. I think, are you driving, Elisa, or is Ryan?
I think I have to share my screen.
Okay.
Can you turn the sharing on? Hi, Elisa Sandoval. Oh, is this
Yeah,
on?
you're
Is
going to have
this
to bring
on?
it really close. Yeah.
Is it on?
Is the green light on?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
you
think
just,
so.
you have to really speak really close to it.
Elisa Sandoval, Community Development Director for the town of Concord. I'm here to provide an update on the MCI Master Plan.
Should be good to share your screen.
Okay, you can see my screen now. So I want to focus on the recent presentation that was given to the MCI committee last week. And this is really to provide an update on the current status of the planning effort. And so far, the consultant team has been working on revisions to the illustrative plan to incorporate feedback from the public during the Design Charrette Week and the online survey, as well as input from the MCI Master Plan Committee and other committees members. As a refresher, let's see, go to the next slide. Here are the 2 plans that were presented at the end of the Design Charrette Week in June. They are pursuing some changes to the plans, and just to highlight some of the changes that they're looking at better ways to provide access to the site, mainly due to some of the issues regarding traffic backup on Commonwealth Avenue. And they're also looking to better refine the layout of the Public Works campus on the site, addressing feedback from Public Works as well as the MCI committee. And they're also looking to include additional commercial and retail space. I think initially they had proposed about 40,000 square feet of retail space, and they're looking to increase that to closer to 90,000, and that is really based on feedback, a lot of feedback from the public wanting to see more retail space, more businesses, more places to shop. So so here's a layout of their current layout for the Public Works campus. And so what they're looking to do is to really lay out the site so it's a little bit more, a little bit tighter, a little more confined, and also addressing more of the issues related to the wastewater treatment plant, while using some of the space to the south to incorporate the sand beds that would be used for the wastewater treatment. And they're also looking to just address the circulation of the site for Public Works to make sure that the trucks and various equipment can get in and out of the site easily. And then just highlighting the areas that they're looking at for the retail. So they're really looking at increasing the retail, especially in the core area that is located adjacent to the near the roundabout, kind of that central entranceway. And then also looking at better connections to the rail trail, incorporating some of the open space and recreational aspects of the site into the greater Greenway Rail Trail and Giroux Park. So here you can see the plan that was presented at the Design Charrette Week is on the left, and a new proposed revisions to the plan are on the right side. And so you can really see there's a bit more condensed footprint for the Public Works facility. There's also, it also includes housing right around the gated perimeter with access out to Route 2. The plan on the right also includes, I'll see if you can see my cursor here, more of the kind of the green recreational space, and it's situating that closer to the rail trail, to Giroux Park, and really trying to make use of a kind of a more green sort of network loop in that area. Another thing, this is a big change in this plan, is that there are 2 entrance points now to the site, where you can see there is a entrance point here. That was the main entrance in the previous plan with the roundabout. They're kind of rethinking the roundabout and whether that will work as effectively as a regular signalized intersection. And then they've included a second entrance to the south, where you can see right here, kind of across from Giroux Park and into the site as well. So there's also a reconfiguration of the parking at the northwest of the site, and that is to better make use of this area, and they've reduced the amount of parking that was included in the previous plan, addressing some concerns around the amount of parking that was located. So going to the next slide. So the team's new development program contains a variety of housing options, from lower density development with a mix of multifamily, townhouse, senior living, and more limited commercial area, to higher density use of more housing and more commercial. It also includes a gym and public works. So just wanted to highlight some of the findings so far on transportation and mobility. This was presented to the MCI committee last week. And so this is just showing generally what the development program range is to a lower kind of estimated housing units here. So they have 700 units total in the lower density development, with some commercial and hotel, to at the high end, quite a bit more in terms of units, up towards 1,000 units in the higher estimate. And so they've kind of, what they do with this is that's the way they're able to generate some initial traffic impacts, and the traffic impacts are based on a federal standard, an ITE standard. And so what they're doing is they're calculating the traffic based on each of these types of uses. And so just kind of highlighting the methodology that they're using for that. Again, this is just kind of the low-high estimate for development, and then comparing that to what was proposed in the vision plan. That was the scenario 3, which was actually similar kind of range of units, but then actually much more commercial was proposed in that plan. So this is just showing the mode share. Mode share is basically how are people getting to and from the site? Are they driving? Are they taking transit? Are they biking, walking? And so they are taking what is Concord's typical mode share based on the census data, and they're applying that to the site. So trying to figure out what will be the mode share of the people, the residents that would be living at the site. So just kind of highlighting that they use a fairly conservative estimate, but they do anticipate that the actual mode share might be a bit higher in terms of people working from home, people, using the bike path potentially more than a typical kind of suburban site. So it's very accessible to transit within a half mile of the commuter rail station. There's a rail trail right there. So there are a number of different things that might make this a bit more, bike ped friendly and transit friendly. So just looking at that, although they did not lower the traffic anticipated from the site based on their methodology, but just taking into account that the actual mode share, people biking and walking might actually be higher for this particular site. This is showing the driving desire lines. And so here they did show what was the existing traffic, how the traffic comes in and out of that area, generally speaking. As you can see, 35, higher percentage of folks using Route 2, people coming off of Commonwealth Avenue. And this is in the evening hours, so there are more people going to Route 2 than moving away from Route 2.
So I'm sorry, what do those numbers represent?
Those are numbers of the distribution of traffic at during the evening kind of commute hours. So if that's like equals 100%, like how is the traffic flowing? So more people are. It just is a way to show like traffic movement.
It's kind of a baseline, right? Because this is current state from July.
Yeah,
and then,
this is baseline, so
Yep.
this isn't taken into account development of the site yet. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
It totals up to 100, but it doesn't give you the volumes. It's just the
Yeah.
percentage that gets
I see
you.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So here is an estimate on the trips generated during the evening commute. And this is based on the highest level of development that was one of the scenarios of 1,000 housing units. So this is kind of what you might call worst case scenario for traffic. So for this is showing if there were, if all the trips were using the single access point and there wasn't a secondary access point, you would have, that many cars going out of the site. Those are the blue arrows. The blue arrows are leaving the site and which way they would turn. And then the orange is how people are entering the site and what is the volume of those trips. So
Sorry,
yeah, go
just,
ahead.
I'm asking just for clarifying questions, so
Yeah,
I
go
don't mean
ahead.
to interrupt, but what time, so PM peak, is it like in a 1 hour window, in a 5 hour, what's the time window that
The
this
PM
number
peak
of trips is
generally-
occurring?
Yeah, I don't have that here. It's generally a window of time. It's not necessarily an hour, but it's like be the evening commute, whatever.
Okay.
Like
Yeah, you know what I
if
mean,
the
because like,
hourly
yeah,
ranges.
like 421
it
entering
wouldn't
trips.
It wouldn't be an hour, but it would be like
Over like a
maybe
couple
like
hours?
during like 5:30 to, I can't tell you right now.
Okay.
But
But we think it's like maybe in a
I
couple
think it's more
hour.
of a window of
Okay.
like the evening commute.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
I
Elisa,
have a question also. About the exiting trips, what scenario does this anticipate for commercial, retail, et cetera, that would be people who are working on site and then have to move off? At what level? Is this the one where you had 100,000 square feet
Yes.
of
Yes.
commercial?
Yeah, this is
Okay.
the one with the most development. So this would be 1,000 units of housing and a hotel and 90,000 square feet of commercial, something like that.
90,000. Okay.
Yeah.
so this estimates there's 871 trips. Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
But all this shows that there's reduced, the bottom line here is that with two entrances, there's reduced pressure on,
I haven't
on
shown
the,
that.
I don't know which intersection they're talking about. This is sort of analysis of what the second entrance does.
This is,
Well-
so this is
Oh,
only using one entrance. So the next slide is just that if there's two entrances.
Where's the slide? Sorry.
And this
Yeah.
shows how the trips are more spread out. So it's not funneling into like just one intersection. And that would help to kind of alleviate traffic and allow for there to be less backup at one intersection, particularly the one that is the main intersection to the north. So so that kind of distributes the traffic if you have two entrances. And then the next one is showing that if you have the third exit right off of Route 2 towards the north east of the site, you can see that one. That even better distributes the trips coming in and out of the site. So that would allow for, overall probably better traffic flow. And then just one thing to note about this graph or this map in particular is that this is showing for the Route 2 exit. That is as if anyone on the site could use that exit. So that is assuming the residents could use that exit and commercial customers could use that exit. But they also did include an analysis of what it would be if it was only being able to be used by Public Works. And that is in that table highlighted in blue is if it was just Public Works using the exit, which is quite a bit lower. You can see only 7 trips in and 19 trips out.
And Elisa, that included a lot of detail from Public Works about their vehicles, et cetera. right?
Correct,
So it's
yeah,
a pretty
they
good
got a lot of
number.
input from Public
Yeah.
Works to come up with that number.
So their scope is really to look at site access, and they've
Right.
done this. Yeah, they looked at 1 entrance, 2 entrances, 3 entrances. This is really not a traffic analysis. This is sort of an access analysis, right? Because they
Right.
haven't
Well,
done
it
a
is
traffic
traffic.
analysis outside of the site.
Well, the traffic analysis shows the 800 some trips. That would be
Right.
anticipated.
And the other
Yeah, but-
thing
but-
that is, it was under 1,000. If the trips were 1,000, then there might have to be another lane added to Commonwealth Ave. So one of the things that was important was to note that it was under that standard that would typically require that. But you're right, to your point, this isn't addressing all the traffic
Right.
throughout of West Concord, which is sort of.
Right, this is the
Really-
analysis.
And other new developments.
This is looking at the MCI development, but it's not an analysis of what happens on Commonwealth Avenue overall in town. That wasn't their scope
No,
to do
it
that,
wasn't.
so,
Right.
okay.
And one other site access point, which I don't know how we're going to cut it off completely, is Winthrop Street. It's not included in any of these analyses. How many people will decide, I'm really just going south, I'm going to get out that way?
But I think that's not our intention. The expectation is that's
I
going
know
to
it's
be.
not our intention, but if it's open, people find a way. I mean, they find the fastest way to go where they want to be, So I know it's not our intention, but if it's available, it'll get use. So,
I think I've heard the term as emergency access.
Right, that's what I
only.
heard, and I was waiting to see if, I don't think we've gotten to this detail, but the goal was that it was supposed to be emergency. It's not
Right.
going to be generally
Okay.
available.
Right.
That was the
That is-
So it's not-
expectation. How
it's-
we achieve that, I'm not sure.
It's
I
not a
think
normal option.
Right.
It's emergency.
okay.
I think that Stantec has been treating it so far as emergency-only access and not
Right.
generally accessible. So, yeah, so that kind of rounds out the, kind of current state of the plan and some of the traffic analysis. What Stantec is doing now is really reviewing the different intersections to this, at the site and seeing, does a roundabout make sense at one or either the locations, looking at signalized, whether they're better signalized. They're looking at the trip generation estimates more closely. They're working with us on, particularly on refining the Public Works site. Public Works really has a strong desire to reuse Building L and really make sure that the circulation works very well for them. So they've had a couple of meetings with Public Works in particular about that. And then they're also working on the fiscal impacts analysis. And then we have a public meeting coming up on September 9th. and that's going to share all the public feedback, present the final illustrative plan, and some of the analysis such as traffic and the potential regulatory plan coming out of that. And then in the fall, as Wendy had mentioned earlier, is really going to be about zoning and drafting zoning for the site. And so we do have a public meeting anticipated that would be a joint meeting with the Select Board, Planning Board, and MCI Committee for October 20th, where the consultant will present draft zoning, and that will be detailed draft zoning that they're developing right now. And I think that concludes my presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there other questions from the board, Paul?
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've been asked, can the MCI planning be done without the Rotary planning at the same time? And my answer is, doesn't feel like it. But my question is, can they really do a master plan without the Rotary design in full swing? Because I'm looking at some of the graphics here, which have the Rotary in there. I know the scope doesn't include Route 2, other than the access, the cut curve that we've been talking about. But if you look at a couple of the graphics here, it has Commonwealth Avenue going right up to the Rotary, but the Rotary's not going to be there anymore. So I'm just wondering how far the master plan can go without having the Route 2 design in full swing. What assumptions come into play there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is tricky, but the consultant team does have traffic engineers and traffic planners, and some of them have been working with the town previously on the Rotary kind of issues and design, and so they've really tried to make sure that the master plan is adaptable enough so that whatever happens with the Rotary, that it is adaptable enough that it can be it can still be valid, basically, and with maybe some slight tweaks, but yes.
Doesn't it include sort of an off-ramp? I mean, the way the intersection is designed, it anticipates an off-ramp of Route 2 coming up to ComAv. So it has anticipated the best that we know of the existing Route 2 design. So it does do that.
Yeah.
And that's all we can do until it's finally final.
Right.
Right, I mean, that piece, I think, in every DOT option, that Commonwealth Avenue off-ramp is in there. So that's
That
one
was the
clear
thing.
piece.
Yeah.
Right.
One last question. The retail, the suggested retail, it seems like the retail right now in the plan is kind of segregated retail in the sense that it's in a part of the site. And I know Spec Dempsey has shown other configurations of other designs, other places that have retail on the first floor of throughout the village. So you walk around any of these roads here and there's housing, but there's retail on the first floor. That doesn't seem to be in their thinking right now. Do I have that? Is that correct?
I think it's more of a, they're working on it to be like more of a center, like a little mini downtownish like area, and that will help to centralize the activity and where people want to go and where they want to walk. And it's they're not necessarily going to be able to have as much housing the way people would like to see a variety of housing if they incorporate commercial throughout the site. So that would kind of make it less available for like the cottage courts and the townhouse developments that people want to see. So I think it's kind of trying to have the best of both worlds by having like a little walkable retail area, but then also like a good diversity of housing. So.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
And then, Elisa, just to confirm that they did plan retail on the first floor, housing above.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely part of where they have retail.
in
There's
part-
housing up above.
In part
too.
of the
In part
site.
of it, right.
But
In
not
most
throughout
of the site,
site.
it does have.
In most of it,
all
it
the-
is.
all of the retail has housing above.
Right.
Okay.
That's been discussed a
Yeah.
few times. Yeah.
Sorry,
Cameron, go.
Well, I apologize if I'm getting slightly confused here with all these different scenarios. Public Works, I guess I always thought they kind of had their own way to get in and out of the Public Works location. I'm looking at this like scenario with 2 inch. Is that true in every case, that, or will we have Public Works trucks driving through the middle of the
It's a good question.
townhouses
I
and
don't
the,
think
and the retail?
I think the intention was not to have that. I mean, but there's sort of
Yeah.
gated, we also were going to gate the Public Works
Mm-hmm.
area, so there wouldn't be a lot of people roaming into Public Works either, because you really want to
Yeah.
make sure
Not
it's
roaming
safe and
in, but-
I
secure.
think it would
No,
be
but-
hard to just only have the Route 2 be the only way that they could get in and out. But it might not be, but, we've seen that the trips is fairly low, so, yeah, but it would have to be carefully thought out, for sure.
So wait, they are coming in from Route 2? There is a curb cut on Route 2 or
That
not?
plan is a curb cut.
It's requested.
Yeah.
It's been requested, and it's going to be escalated, as you well know,
Yeah.
Yeah, a plan for them to have a way to come in
on the curb cut, on Route 2.
on Route 2.
Absolutely, yes,
Okay,
yes.
but it's not, okay, so just, I'm not crazy
Yeah,
in thinking
oh,
that
yeah,
that's
mhm.
an idea, but that's not a done deal. There is
No, it's
also another
absolutely-
option
yeah,
where
yeah,
they are
yeah.
driving
Yes.
to get there through the middle of the development. Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. Dean, did you have any questions?
Yeah, I do. Alyssa, the Public Works redesign, which was segregated out as a separate little slide, it shows a new building, and it takes away a building in the upper left corner, which is quite large. And I assume that's one of the buildings that I toured, which Public Works was salivating over. It's a huge interior space that they could service their trucks and do all kinds of stuff in. Is that building the one that you're calling Building L, that they really do want to keep?
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
if that has to,
Yes.
if that has to come down, then, some of the economic benefit of putting them there goes away, because that's a really valuable building to them. To rebuild that's going to be expensive.
Yeah, so that's one of the refinements they're working on now is a Public Works campus that includes Building L, but just better addresses some of the concerns about the buffer to residential and making sure that it is, that there is a good boundary between the two areas. So that is something that they're working on refining now. This presentation doesn't have that, because
Okay.
hasn't been
'Cause it was like,
finalized.
here's the thing, here's what it looked like, and here's the new one, and you miss
Yeah.
that big building, and then all of a sudden there's new building, which means construction costs for the town. My other question is just sort of the relationship between commercial space and what you're calling gym space. The gym space number just seems very large. It feels like this is the town taking advantage of the redevelopment to look for something that the town just wants. We want more gym space generally. We don't have enough interior, places for kids to play basketball or for whatever reason, and so we're laying it into this development. 64,000 square feet for gym space versus 95,000 for commercial. Just seems like a weird ratio, and I think that it's kind of a high number. How did we arrive at that number?
It's a reused gym.
Yeah, the gym is
It's the existing gym that's on the site.
And it's 64,000 square feet?
It's a big gym. It's
Yeah.
got more than just the gym in it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a very
That's
large
very
building.
large. It's very large.
And that's not saying that the town's asking for that gym to be preserved. I think it's saying on the site for a nice environment, community, it could be a good community space, but it's up, it could be the developer would have to develop it for a gym.
And there are developers that are interested in that
Yes.
space specifically for that.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a commercial, so it'd be a commercial.
Commercial- commercial
It'd be
space.
Commercial,
Yeah,
no,
cheap
Yeah, I-
commercial
not a
gym.
municipal.
Yeah, I can't see the
Right.
town
That's an important
taking that on.
distinction.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is
I've got-
important. So
Yeah.
it kind of
Yeah.
falls into
Yeah.
the number that we're
It's
using
the
as commercial.
commercial
then,
side of
Because
it.
you're saying that somebody will run that as a business.
Exactly.
But
Right.
was that,
Exactly.
That's a very different look
Yeah.
on what that is.
but it wasn't marked, the commercial building wasn't identified as commercial in their graphic, was it?
What, the
Was-
gym?
The gym.
The gym was marked as commercial?
No, I'm
No,
saying,
it
I
wasn't.
didn't
No, it
think it
was not.
was.
It should
So
be.
it is separate and apart from what was designated as that potential 90,000 commercial, so.
Right, and it's a good size but, if in future the developer decides some other use is, more whatever to developable, then
Well-
that could also happen.
But the distinction in conversations, I think, Spec Dempsey and DCAM said, well, if the town wants that, they could have the gym. But I think we're talking about commercial development for a gym, which tax-generating commercial development in that space,
Yes.
recreation, so.
We hear the message.
That brings me up to the fiscal impacts analysis. I mean, this is one, we've got a lot of assumptions here,
Yeah.
but this is one that will have a direct impact. Is this something, a municipal building the town has to maintain, or is this going to be a
No.
source of revenue
No.
for the town? So that's just,
Yeah,
as an example.
Yes. Yeah,
That's just
no.
one assumption we have to be clear on in
Yep.
order to do a good fiscal impact analysis. Which gets me back to my original question, how good of a fiscal impact analysis can we do, given we have so many moving parts? And what do we think the time frame would be for that?
We're hoping to wrap up the fiscal analysis sometime in September, and then have that be a special session or a special topic for the MCI committee with the final report. But it would take into account the proposed development program, potential fiscal impacts with schools, public safety, all the kind of, other impacts that might be associated, but then what would be what if anything would be the net benefit for the town in terms of revenue? So they're
From
doing that.
property tax
From
and
property
from-
taxes, building permits, that kind of thing,
Exactly.
so, yeah.
Okay.
So Elisa and I are actually meeting with the consultant to talk about that fiscal analysis. There's been separate meetings with the finance department, with the schools, and we just want to dig into a little deeper detail and make sure that we have a good understanding of it, and so I'm sure there'll be more to
I'm
follow.
glad to hear that.
Well, closing the loop in the last two conversations, I think we have to make it clear that that indoor recreation space is a commercial space, a
Yeah. Yeah, and
tax-generating
we can-
commercial
we can
space,
qualify it
and
as
not a
commercial.
municipal space.
Exactly.
Right, well,
That's
it's
what
not-
I just
right.
said.
So, yeah, that's been my assumption.
I'm just repeating,
What she's already
I'm just
said.
summarizing everybody's good thoughts here.
All right. So good discussion. I just want to take the opportunity to ask the public if there are additional questions about MCI at this point. Use the raise hand feature for remote, if there's someone in the audience here. Nothing. That means it was really good presentations. Thank you, Lisa. I really appreciate it. More to follow. Okay, so we were on time and then we lost a little time. We're next going to move on to a discussion around an open meeting law complaint that the Select Board has received, and this is a complaint regarding the purpose for which was the Select Board went into an executive session on July 6th. So Kari's here to help walk us through the background and required next steps. Thank you, Kari.
Thank you.
Yeah, just remember that microphone has to be really close.
Like that?
Yeah, really close, yeah.
Okay. So the purpose of this agenda item is to review the complaint as required by open meeting law and to respond to the complainant within 14 business days of receipt of the complaint, which is Friday, August 21st. A copy of the response will also be sent to the Division of Open Government. So to review the complaint, on August 3rd, the Select Board received an open meeting law complaint regarding the legal purpose for entering executive session on July 6th, 2026. The complainants believe that Purpose 1 should have been cited instead of Purpose 3.
We cannot hear Kari.
Oh, so that means you
Sorry.
really have to, you
Should
gotta
I-
go.
Is this a better
Is it the
microphone?
green,
Nice.
it just has to be really
Gotta be
close
like
to your
right there.
lips.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
we
right
missed
there?
the whole
Yep.
first
Is that
part.
good?
That's good, yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Did you
I'm
miss
sorry.
everything, or?
Yeah, we did, actually. Thank you.
Yeah.
You did, okay. So I'm going to review the complaint that was filed on August 3rd. The Select Board received an open meeting law complaint regarding the legal purpose for entering executive session on July 6th, 2026. The complainants believe that Purpose 1 should have been cited instead of Purpose 3, and that the complainants should have been notified and allowed to attend the executive session. Now, just to review, under Purpose 1, a public body may meet in executive session to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health, rather than professional competence of an individual, or to discuss the discipline or dismissal of, or complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual. Under Purpose 3, a public body may meet in executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body. Going back to the day in question, on July 6th, 2026, the Select Board entered executive session under Purpose 3 to discuss potential litigation to enforce the order of injunction in connection with the previous litigation concerning public access to Estabrook Road. Prior to entering executive session, Chair Ravelli stated that all Select Board members had received a letter from 2 abutters about the executive session. The abutters to Estabrook Road, to the property, believed that Purpose 1 should have been cited as the reason to enter executive session because they believed they were, as individuals, the subject of the discussion, and they should have been notified of the executive session as the named individuals and been allowed to attend. Chair Ravelli then asked Town Council Mina Macarius to address the issue. Council Macarius stated that the purpose of the executive session was not to discuss the character or reputation of individuals, but rather to discuss potential enforcement of the court order in the Estabrook Road litigation or take further action on that matter. The abutters disagreed and filed a complaint on August 3rd. Now, the next step in the process is for the board to discuss how to respond to the complaint and to vote to designate someone to respond to that complaint.
Okay. So I'll just note, just prior to going into executive session, we stated the reason for going into executive session, and I don't think that has changed at all. So I think the purpose still stands from our perspective. So I think that's still the case. I will ask the board, does anyone else have anything they want to add from a comments perspective to the discussion?
No.
No? Okay.
Now, the only thing I would add is that we were also advised by town council regarding our standing to go into executive session on this purpose.
Right. Yep. So I'd agree. In our packet, I know that Mr. Macarius has actually given us a draft response that we are able to use if we should so choose. But we need to decide, as Kari said, who should respond to the complaint. And I think we have to take a formal vote to that effect. So I'm certainly in support of asking our legal counsel to draft and forward that response on our behalf. What do other board members think?
You're saying this particular one, you're saying you support the draft that's in our.
Yeah, I support the draft. I mean, we may, yeah.
I do too.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Yep,
I'm fine with it as well.
So do we need a vote?
Yeah, we need a
Yeah.
vote.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to authorize our town council to notify the open meeting law complainant of the select board response to this OML complaint.
Okay.
And I will take a roll call vote. Mr.
Just ask,
I
is there any
sec-
more
second
discussion?
that.
Okay, second? The second first, yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
Mr. Banfield.
Aye.
Mr. Bohm.
Aye.
Ms. Hartman.
Aye.
Ms. Ravelli.
Aye.
Mr. McKenna. Aye.
Great. Thank you, Kari. Appreciate it. All right, moving along in our agenda. I don't know how that went so quick.
Moving along. I think I
Yes.
have the next one.
Okay, yes, you do.
Yes.
Code by.
So you'll see in the packet the updated bylaw recodification committee charge. And this is based on incorporating comments from our last meeting from 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
And if you recall, the primary comments that I took away was, number one, there was a couple of places where we wanted to specify that some of these areas were related specifically to things that set procedural rules. So standing votes that set procedural rules, current town bylaws and standing votes that set procedural rules. So there's a couple places there that I made that change. We also talked about and wanted to make sure that we were asking the committee to actually, I had written it that they would oversee and support,
Yeah.
but that we wanted to write it that they would actually conduct with consulting support.
Yep.
Right, so that was a key
Yep.
component as well, so that we're not asking the committee to do all of the,
Yep.
the detailed work, but that they are in charge of doing the work, so conduct with consulting support. And then there was just one other place there where I added local option statutes instead of state statutes at the bottom, because we wanted to just be clear on what it was that we were setting out, that we wanted the committee to cover. So those were really the changes that I sort of put through, and you have in front of you kind of a proposed final draft that would go to setting this committee charge, and then we would go about, naming the, getting the committee members
Yep.
picked. So let me stop there and see if there's any.
I think it's great. It reflects all the discussion that we had last week, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
No, good job.
Dean?
Cameron, you did a great job, because you incorporated the piece that I asked for, which is that the committee is the ones doing the work. So thanks for that. I would make it a little simpler, but since we're all here and we're ready to vote for it, I'll vote for it. But I would have just put at the top of the thing that the committee shall engage with professional consultants to help with the identification of legal and other issues and then you can take that with consulting support out of every other clause. It's because you've already said that the committee will do this, and then the committee is just doing what it's doing. But since we're all ready to vote, and it's all ready, I'll go with it. It's fine.
Thank you, Dean.
All right. Thank you.
It's a very good point, very good point.
Before we move, let me just ask, are there members of the public that have any comments or questions about this charge? I see no raised hands in the room or online, so we'll take a motion.
Okay, I'm going to take a motion to, or propose a motion to approve the bylaw codification committee charge as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Banfield,
Aye.
Mr. Bohm,
Aye.
Ms. Hartman,
Aye.
Ms. Ravelli,
Aye.
and Mr. McKenna, aye.
Okay. So our next steps, Cameron, let me just ask, are you also volunteering to help facilitate
Yes.
the nomination
Yep.
process? Okay.
Yep, so I've
for-
started to collect some candidate names. I know there was a
Okay.
couple
All
that
right.
kind of started floating around. There's a couple of
Yep.
other folks that I've already started talking to.
Okay.
So it's on me then to start, filling the
Okay.
roster, so
Well,
to
and now
speak.
that this is final, I mean, we can just talk this up. And if
Yes.
we do find someone who's interested, I'll just
Yes.
ask them to submit a volunteer card and let you know who they were.
Yes, absolutely. Volunteers.
I already put out some feelers. I haven't gotten much back,
Yep.
though, so
Okay.
working on.
All right, so people
Yes.
should just submit volunteer cards. Speak to them and
Absolutely,
then-
and we now have a final charge that we can
Yep.
send to people as well.
Yeah, that's great. So thank you. All right. Another committee. Okay, it's all good, though. It's good. All right. So next, I think Matt is here, Matt Johnson, here to talk about conflict of interest once again. You are the master of the conflict of interest.
I wish that I
Filing.
didn't have to bother you again. But
Matt, you have to get really close to the microphone.
yeah, so you all remember that I had to resign from the MCI Concord Master Plan Committee because of the sort of ongoing changes possible relative to Winthrop Street. And even though things seem to be going a different direction, you never know. So I think it is a good idea for me not to be on that committee. However, in the wake of all of this, I also needed to update my conflict of interest declaration for being on the trust. And in the course of that discussion, the state ethics office attorney informed me that there was this other form, 23B3, and because I revealed that I was a member of the Concord Housing Foundation, she said, well, do they lobby about housing? And, you're on the trust, you're on this foundation, what's going on? So anyway, the result is that I need to file this declaration. Now, I think unlike the one that's about the financial interest, I don't believe there's any action you need to take relative to it. You do need to take an action relative to the one about the
Housing trust.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but it is interesting because, of course, since the founding of the foundation, members of the foundation have been key members of our
Yes.
Yeah.
housing committees.
they
And
have.
I think there's really no sunlight between the goals of the foundation and the goals of our trust and other housing groups in town. So I hope that you'll allow me to continue to participate on the trust and serve on the foundation to help advance our housing efforts.
Sure.
Sorry, yeah, just
Question.
to understand, the Concord Housing Foundation is a town?
No, it's a
That's-
501c3, so it's a charitable foundation.
Right.
And the only asset that it has is a bank account, effectively. And so what really happens with the foundation is that there are a certain number of projects, like the farmers' housing at Barrett's Mill that could not be funded by the housing trust because it's farmer housing, and so it has a designated, person. It can't be in a lottery in the same way. And so it wasn't eligible as a town housing project, but the foundation was able to raise funds and make it happen. And there are lots of other little jobs like that the foundation helps out with. Plus, I think the foundation has sort of informally served as the housing conscience of Concord at various key
Right.
moments in its history.
But if it's a separate 501c3, why would it be a conflict of interest with the, what's the rationale that says, hey, this is a conflict of interest?
Because
Potentially.
because I'm a member of both.
Right.
And it advocates for housing, and the trust is pursuing housing efforts. And so, in effect, it's lobbying the trust, of which I am a member, and influencing me. I'm potentially an outside group influencing me to influence the trust.
Right.
But I think
Okay.
as this is publicly declared,
Yep.
and as I think we've all understood, it's very aligned,
Yep.
that there really isn't a conflict. But I was advised that I needed to
Right.
file this.
Yep.
And if there was a matter before if the Housing Foundation brought something before the trust, you would recuse yourself from the discussion, I assume.
I
Is that-
guess, though, it's fascinating because recently we had the housing strategy paper, which I
Right.
presented as a member, before I was aware of any
Right.
of this,
Yeah.
as a member of the foundation to the various bodies,
Yeah.
including the trust.
If there was a specific request, though, a specific funding request that CHF was making to
To the
the
trust.
trust, you
Oh,
would-
well, we would never,
You wouldn't, right.
we would never
Yeah,
make
yeah.
such a request, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's a good question, though, Karen,
Yeah.
but I think you're right. You wouldn't.
So, I guess the only action is for someone on the select board to write the determination on the other
So,
form, the one
don't
that
we
just
still have
updates
to-
my
So,
locality of my house issue.
and that was for the Concord Housing
Yeah, and
Foundation.
I intend to continue to recuse
Yeah.
myself on the trust from any issue that's specific to the Junction Village site,
Okay,
of which there will
Different
be one
issue.
this Thursday.
Right.
So,
right. So but in the document, there was two. There's still a conflict of interest for your participation on the trust, right, that we have to sign.
well, like I say, it's just the declaration of
It's
this
just a
issue
declaration.
relative to my locality to the Junction Village site. Yeah,
Okay.
MCI and Junction.
And I saw that as a form in our packet.
And that's
This
something
does
that you
just
have to
needs be
fill in.
signed.
That
Yeah,
part
I
you
just
fill in. The
fill it
other
in.
one, the 23B3, is just like, hey, here it is. If you don't like it, then you might take an action, but there's no.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't actually have.
All right, so we don't
I'm
have to
sorry.
take a vote necessarily.
We don't have to do anything on this.
No, we don't, but you have to authorize me to sign that document, which
That's
just means
right.
we're accepting what Matt has presented
That's-
here
that's
tonight,
right.
which
Wait,
you
I'm
certainly
I'm
do.
still confused about, there are two different things, or there's just one thing?
There's two forms. So the one, the section 19 disclosure, the second form, is the one
That I have to
where
sign.
you have to sign something.
Right.
That's,
You
And
have to
what-
take a vote.
yeah.
And what
it's-
is that form?
So it says, basically, the
Specify.
determination is you've reviewed the particular matter in the financial interest identified and determined that the financial interest is not so substantial as to be deemed likely to affect the integrity of the services which the municipality may expect from the employee.
Right,
That's me.
I'm sorry, what financial? This is where
Well,
I'm-
the financial interest is my house is close to Junction Village, and
That's
so it might present a conflict of interest relative
Right.
to that development.
Right.
And I'm recusing myself from deliberations on that matter as a member of the trust.
So we're voting on the signature of that second form, which I just don't have in front of me. Is there,
It's,
what's the title of it?
Page 91 of your
Yeah, I
packet.
know. I just want to make sure that we refer to it correctly.
But it sounds like there's two, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
there sounds like there's two separate, like, what is in front of us on this agenda says, approve the conflict of interest for serving on the Affordable Housing Trust and serving on the Concord Housing Foundation.
right.
Yeah. the
And then what I'm
service-
hearing
And now
is,
we're
no,
talking
there's
about-
actually a different separate thing that has to do with my potential financial interest because I live on Winthrop Street.
That's right.
Which to me is very separate and
You're
different.
right.
Yes.
So that's all.
So it just
so-
wasn't described well in your
Yeah, so
packet.
this is actually not the
Correct.
motion.
No.
It's not the correct
Okay.
motion.
Okay.
Aren't we authorizing the select board chair to sign this
Just sign,
form?
yeah, that's what you're
Yes,
doing.
that's what you're
But
Right,
that form-
but not this.
Right, so the authorization,
It's
well, I
not this.
wanted to try to craft the motion, which is the select board authorizes the chair to sign the blah, blah, blah form. What is the title of that form?
Section 19 disclosure.
Section 19 disclosure.
Determination
Section 19, disclosure,
of financial interest.
as related to your residence,
Yeah.
right?
Sounds good.
Abutting, is it abutting the
Near
MCI?
butter, no, it's it's the whole business is the access point.
In close proximity
Yeah. Near
to,
butter.
That's good.
to the MCI development or the?
I'm really
Junction
sorry
Village.
about this.
No, I just want to get it right. I just want to get it right.
The last time.
Section 19 disclosure, as related to your residence
Three
in
times
close
the charm.
proximity to the Junction Village
Yes.
proposed or potential Junction Village development.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you refer to the second page of the section 19, under the determination, and I'm just going to,
Yeah,
right here, I think
just that's
that,
it.
That is
That's
it.
it.
That's the statement right
Yeah.
there.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're required to do that because you are the appointing authority of the
right,
members
right.
of the Affordable Housing Trust.
Okay. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna attempt a motion here. I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the for Matt Johnson, the Section 19 disclosure as related to his residence in close proximity to the potential Junction Village development, having determined that his financial interest is not so substantial as to be deemed likely to affect the integrity of the services which he is expected to deliver.
And we authorize the chair to sign the form.
And we authorize the chair, and authorizing the chair to sign the appropriate forms confirming thereof.
Second.
Yay, very good job.
Okay.
All right, roll
Mr.
call.
Banfield,
Aye.
Mr. Bohm,
Aye.
Ms. Hartman,
Aye,
Ms. Ravelli,
Aye.
Mr. McKenna, aye.
very good.
Very good, thank you,
All right,
Matt.
thank you.
And
Thank you,
Cameron,
Matt.
thank you for that on the spot.
All right, I think we got it. We got it.
That was fun.
Okay, all right, so next on our agenda is a discussion and vote to approve the FY26 merit bonus for our town manager, which is always an odd kind of discussion, but we're required to have this in a public session. The board members had previously received a presentation by Jess, in terms of the performance review itself. Jess has provided a memo, which sort of encapsulates the summary rankings that came out of that analysis. And so we need to have a discussion on how to proceed on this evaluation. I want to point out what's a little different this year, and I know you all know this, but I'm going to say it out loud, was that last year, only the select board evaluated the performance of the town manager. So we had two sections in our evaluation. One was on the goals section of the town manager's evaluation, and then also on the leadership attributes. But this year, what we've introduced is 360 feedback from town leaders, from the senior management team, as well as Donna, the communications manager, providing feedback on Carrie's performance. So last year, when this was put together, Jess had presented sort of a composite, one number that we used on the metric. But this year we have different numbers, and I wanted to take this opportunity to have a discussion around how we think about the goals section and the leadership section. So last year, inherently, we balanced the metric because it was one number. They were equal 50-50 percentage. And as we do these performance reviews going forward, there's sort of a question of should is that fair? Is that reasonable? Should we have a different weighting of the attributes that go to the performance evaluation for the goals versus the leadership attributes? So it's just a question. I don't know if people have strong feelings about that. I personally feel like if you don't have good leadership skills, you're never going to achieve your goals. But you have to manage it. But that's sort of a question that we need to grapple a little bit with. So we have sort of 3 numbers here on how to weight those. And do people have an opinion on, do the goals weight more than the leadership? Or the equal?
The way I approached it is, well, first of all, similar to last year,
Yep.
when we came up with this one number that we haven't
Yep.
decided how
Yes, yes.
we took that one number and said, how far into the range is that?
Right, so.
And applied
yep.
that to the range for the bonus.
Right.
So that's where we're going, I think.
Yeah, I took
Right.
the same approach, yep.
So the way I approached it, and I'm not
Yep.
married to this, but I gave equal weight to goals and leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I worked in the 360 review was into the leadership number by assuming that was another voice added to the 5 select board members. So I gave it 1/6 weight
Oh,
as opposed to the other. And
Yep.
that's one number. Another way you could give it would be equal weight to the select board. But my thinking, to me, the pivotal question here is how do we weight the 360 degree
yeah,
relative to the select board? And while I think the 360 degree gives us a lot of insight into the morale and the effectiveness of our staff, which is important to all of us, we have to remember that the town manager works for the town and not the staff. So that was my thinking there as far as the weighting.
Yep.
But I'm open to it.
so I took the same approach, and let me just go back. That example last year, we had a scale of 3, right? And so when we say the metric was, I don't know, 2 point, whatever the example was, it wasn't the rating divided by 3, it was a rating divided by the range of 1 to 3, which was a 2-point scale. So it was a little odd.
Oh, that
kind
was
of a
weird.
calculation.
That
Yeah, it
was
was weird, but
Yeah.
but it
This year we-
works.
Yeah.
But now it's just a bigger
We
scale.
calibrated it, so this
Yeah.
year it's 1 to 5. Right?
But that's still a scale of 4.
That's right.
Right.
You're
So,
absolutely right. Yes, I
so
understand.
so I had the same question in my mind, like how do we balance the feedback from the select board and the 360? And I think the staff evaluation is really important. When I looked at this, I thought of making it sort of 50-50 and blending the two. Don't forget, there's 11 or 12 people that were weighing in on that performance, so I think it was important. So I'm just,
I
let me
would
just
second
get.
that.
Oh, okay, Dean
I
sort of,
think that weighting the 360 and the select board 50-50 on the leadership is a good mix. That's my opinion
Okay.
as well.
Okay.
all right. Cameron, any?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's hard to be, at the end of the day, it's actually pretty hard to be super formulaic about
Yeah, it
it.
is.
No, it is. It just
I
really
know it
is,
is, yeah.
because there's, okay, well, on a scale of 1 to 5, but does anyone ever get a 5? Like,
No.
across the board, on average, like, you might get a 5 on certain things, but no. Does anybody ever get a 1, like, on everything? No, right? So it's just, I think this is all very helpful. I think ultimately it becomes a little bit of
Subjective.
subjective.
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
So I don't know. I mean, it's hard to have a,
Well, I guess the way I looked at it, I will talk now. The way I looked at it is we did all this work.
Yeah.
Where I'm giving these numbers. So.
Oh, I'm not trying to ignore it.
So we did all that
Yeah.
work. So we come up with a number.
Yeah.
Now we're going to say, oh, well, now we're just going to.
No,
It feels like we've done a whole bunch of
Yep.
work that we could use.
yes,
Yeah.
we have, you have to look at the number. I'm just saying, like, I remember going through it last year. We all had a
Yep.
different way of like, well, what if what does this
Oh,
mean in terms of,
okay.
everybody has a different formula. Like, so I'm not saying don't be, somewhat quantitative, but I
Yep.
think it's hard to,
Yeah.
Um,
Well.
Paul,
What do
any, just 2 cents on general process?
Dean,
Yeah, okay.
This is all very interesting, just hearing it.
You heard it last year, too.
it's all very interesting.
Well, I didn't participate last year. I heard it last year.
Yeah.
Just stepping back, I don't have any formula to this, but I think general leadership is really important. But we are achieving goals you can measure, and I think performance for a given year, for my weighting would be more in goals and general leadership. I don't know what that number would be. And as far as the composite rating from the staff, I view that as important. I'm glad we did it, but quantitatively, that number for me is sort of a advisory.
Yep.
It's a bit of it's a green flag. It's not a red flag. It's yellow. It's a green flag. So that reinforces the general leadership number that we've given it. So I'm kind of focusing more on the board composite ratings here, taking into account the general sentiment that the staff is in good shape and happy. And that's great, because nothing else can happen without that. I mean, the town manager doesn't perform this alone. So if I had to weight the two, I would weight goals slightly greater than leadership. But the interesting part of this is that the system is kind of set up for, it's from 1 to 5, and we have raises that go from 2 to 5, assuming that if you get a 1 rating, you're not going to get an increase, and you can't get more than 5. So there's, you could, if goals and leadership was split 50-50, you could take the average of those scores and just apply it directly to the increase. I'm not advising you to do that, but in my mind, I'm coming out sort of in that general framework, somewhere between the 3.48 and the 3.9 on the scale of 1 to 5. That's where I'm kind of judging this, and so I'm not really quantitatively taking into account the 4.42 number. I'm saying that's a good number, but anyway, that's where I come out.
I'd like to propose a 3.75%.
That's what I was going to say.
Well, you know what? I have a number that gets 3.74, so I'll go for 3.75.
Oh, you were at 3.74, Wendy?
Yes, I
Oh, wait a
was. Well,
second.
you know what I did?
Hold on.
Okay, how
Stop.
about 3.45?
No,
Well,
3.75.
and the 3.75 is the average of those two numbers, 3.4 and 3.9.
Well,
That was close.
I was actually, yeah, I was gonna, number I wrote down was 3.5. So I think we're all in the same
We're close.
ballpark. Although, Dean, we haven't.
Yeah.
You did, we hadn't heard.
So technically,
My opinion
Dean,
does not count this year.
does not count
so
'cause-
Oh, that's
Right.
right.
Oh, you
I'm
did.
sorry.
right.
I'm sorry.
So
I had a different way to get there, but go for it. Make a
make a
motion.
motion for a 3.75% bonus for the town manager's FY '26 performance review.
I'll second that.
All right.
Let's take a vote.
Yeah. So Dean's not voting, but,
I'm abstain.
So Dean, you're gonna,
Abstain.
okay.
okay,
all right.
Mr. Bohm.
I'd say yes.
Ms. Hartman?
Yes.
Ms. Ravelli?
Yes,
Mr. McKenna? Aye.
okay. And so just mathematically, I had 3.74, so the dollar amount, did you calculate that?
I did not.
Okay,
No,
well,
just-
that's okay. We'll go with
Yeah,
3.75%.
3.75 of the,
3.75.
Okay.
eligible salary. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And that
I
is
did.
our vote.
Very good.
All right.
And congratulations,
So,
Carrie, and thank you
yes,
for your
Carrie,
service.
Thank you very much. We do definitely value your contributions, your staff. It really was really interesting to get the feedback this year, and I hope you appreciated that as well. I think it's very valuable to get that.
And Jessica Porter, thank you for
Yes.
managing this process.
Yes, yeah.
Very smooth, different, and real good process. Yeah.
Just for the record, too, the dollar amount is $9,353.28.
Can you just say it one?
Sure, $9,353.28.
28 cents.
Very good.
Yep.
Yep.
Great, thank you. All right. Wow, that was faster than I thought it was going to be. All right, so now we're going to move on to, yes, update for the Land Use Working Group, and I see Sven Weber is here. Sven, do you need to share your screen, or you brought your laptop? I just didn't know.
No, I need the laptop for my notes here.
Oh.
So first of all, thank you for having me. Judith doesn't look she can make it, so her mother
Okay.
passed away
Yeah,
beginning
sorry to
of
hear that.
last week.
Can you pull the
So she
mic a
has-
little closer?
has-
Oh, you gotta, you know what, you have to
You
bring the
gotta be
microphone
like-
I
right
have
to your
to
lips.
eat that.
Right in there.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. So Judith Long appears not to be able to join here because her mother passed away beginning of last week. We had some back and forth this morning. Perhaps she's still joining, but we are ahead of schedule here. So as you know, just a little bit a year ago, Land Use Working Group started. We had an interim report in beginning of February. the phase one report. And then we took the time with a changed charter to reconcile the results, revisit some of the recommendations, and bring it to a final recommendation here. There was a lot that the group went through. We had several subgroups, a lot of meetings specifically in the first 9 months. And then we took a little bit more time to reflect on the first time when we were drinking out of the fire hose on this one. So I would, there's a link in your documents to the final report. I think the real important pages are under section 6, starting page 32. Which is not just a summary, but just a bit more beef behind the different recommendations. And I would like to just go quickly through it verbally. If someone wants to put it on the screen, perhaps someone can do it. That would be nice. So I would say we started in the interim on a phase one report with 3 recommendations. We came back with 5. And there are a few changes here. The first one is quite familiar, is around the public safety facilities. The initial recommendation to upgrade the public safety facilities stands as we had it in phase one report, with a priority around the West Concord fire station, specifically given the significant development that is done in West Concord, 240Bs, MCI, we heard it today. We are talking to a significant more units, more population, more demand there, and an outdated fire station there. So that stands there with the potential to have a fire headquarters there and then downgrade the location we have here on this side of Route 2 to a substation. There's still work to be done what to do with the current public safety building on Walden. Can this be renovated or not? So there is work to be done on that one. And does it fit both, or do we need to have 1 or potentially 2 smaller buildings on this side of the Route 2? But that requires, and the recommendation number 1 is that the town and select board should set up a building committee for these public safety buildings, and that sooner than later, because this takes time. You're just this is a multi-year, prolonged process. You're not building a fire station and potentially something for police or renovating that over there just overnight. So that is, I think, for us, when we discuss this, the highest priority for the town to start setting this up, start to prepare it, and roll the sleeves up to get this done. The second working stream is around public works facility. That changed a little bit. We had, in the phase one report, identified 3 potential locations. That is now just 1. We are recommending to place public works at MCI, if possible. That is right now delegated to the MCI Master Plan Committee. And we have in there, if that should fail for whatever reasons, and plenty of reasons why that could not happen there, then there should be another group going back to the drawing board and seeing what can be done there. We know any location, any property where you would locate public works other than MCI will face significant public pushback. It's just, no matter what you do, it's a very, very difficult decision. So in that sense, we hope that MCI works out. That would be the best outcome for placing it. If not, then there needs to be a group to go back to the drawing board and find the best solution. Now there are coming 3 recommendations that one of them is familiar, but there are 2 more that are
Can I
more...
interrupt for a second, Sven?
Yeah.
Can we just move the slide deck or the report to what page? Page 33. It'll align with what Sven's talking about. He's into the there we go. Thank you. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, Sven.
So we just passed Public Works. So we are now, if you go further down here to 6.3, stop there. So now we come to 3 more recommendations. One of them is familiar, which is the municipal consolidation, but we prioritized one higher than that, which is establishing really a long-range capital planning. And we are imagining it's a little bit more than just saying, okay, a new fire station costs X million dollars and putting money to public works costs Y money, and we're just placing it somewhere in a long-term budget. I think this is really making the work to think smart in how this is financed. We are all raised this by that. We are talking about well above $100 million for the town. So are there other opportunities to surplus properties, either lots or in connection with the other recommendation, which is the municipal consolidation, surplus assets the town has to finance this? Are there other ways to get land swaps or get credit for units, like the discussion we have around MCI? Can we get unit credits for potential housing at Kaiser Road and do other? So really thinking about this from a financial portfolio view. And if you have any kind of a larger financial portfolio, you would not tinker it yourself, but just saying, okay, that's how I do it. I do in 3 years this, and in 5 years that, and that's fine. You really have to think about this strategically from a financial tool set, and that's what we are recommending here with the different details here to say there must be experts going into it. We have to understand where our population goes, because that drives some of these costs. Some of the data we get from MCI, but it is a silo purely on MCI. We need to understand more than one silo. We have to have a group that connects the dots between what do we know about the 40Bs driving, what do we know what MCI is doing, what is coming out of MBTA rezoning, what is coming out of the other rezonings we did in the recent town meetings, and what kind of load, service load, does this generate, and what does it mean for our capital expenditures? So that it's really trying to move us out of the silos in capital planning. So with that, the next recommendation is municipal consolidation. As said before, the town is spread around 18 different buildings. That generates a lot of cost, a lot of inefficiencies. The group identified a subset of these buildings that could potentially be consolidated. That should not be lost, because this is an opportunity not only to be operationally more efficient, to save operational money, but also to surplus potential property, and again, coming back to the capital planning to finance some of the needs the town has. And the last one is a long-range land use planning. I think this was one of the things perhaps we all learned, that the task of the task force, the committee, was an impossible task. Because the town in past has identified really nice goals, what can be done, but there was, at least from what we learned, is not a comprehensive real land use planning there which we could base our work on. And for us to reinvent or just do that as a volunteer organization within a few months was much more than we could have done. So that was also driving, I think, one of the changes you had for the phase 2, just to bring it to a realistic task here. But it should not be forgotten. We have a lot in front of us. We know land is scarce. There's limited land. We have about 38 to 40% of the land already in conservation restriction. We have, on top of that, we have wetlands. we have a lot of land zoned in a way that you can only do limited housing on large lots. So if you really look at what land is available and what can be done, it's extremely limited. And the town needs to understand, is this what the town wants in the long term? Is this Concord's identity? Then it is, but then you have to build kind of planning around it, how you do it. Or do you want to change some of these things to achieve certain goals the town might have? And you need this long-range planning function. That doesn't need to be a committee. That can be within the town administration. Yeah? But we need to have a real land use planning function that looks not only, again, in a silo for something, oh, we have to deliver a certain zoning, like MBTA zoning in a certain deadline, but really look in the 10, 20, 30-year horizon how the land use in Concord develops. So, again, these are a lot of big words. It's more concrete in here, but that's my quick summary about what the recommendations are. Take care of the public safety. Fire headquarters in the West Concord is important. Place public works at MCI if possible. Do a really comprehensive capital planning that is not siloed, that looks really broad. Consolidate as many municipal buildings as possible to be more efficient, and have a long-term planning around what can be done or not be done with the land Concord owns. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And Sven, thanks to you and the whole committee, because the work that you've been doing has been incredible. It was very intense, getting that first phase report out, and then I know you've taken a little break, but it's been a lot of work. And it's been just the committee doing a lot of that work, so I appreciate it. I do have some questions on it. I did read most of the report, but not all of it. In terms of the recommendations that you meant, do you have any best practices? So you talk about a good long-range use plan. Did you find any examples of towns or municipalities that have have demonstrated some of that good planning?
Well, here I would say Judith would
Oh,
come
yeah.
very handy, but unfortunately she's not here. I think the town should, if the town doesn't feel the current staff can help on that,
Yeah.
you should engage with a consultant to find the ways, how is this best done?
Yeah, I just
and
didn't know if
help
you-
the town to understand that. And again, always relying, the town relies a lot on volunteer committees. I think this is so important for the town that, and I'm normally not a fan of consultants, but this is so important and will touch so much on the fiscal side for the town, that the proper look at that, how to structure that, and how to enable the town to have that function. There might be a few dollars spent there, that with consultants.
Yeah. And then I just have another question on the DPW. Did the committee look really hard at trying to stay at Kai's Road? Like, could we redevelop that if you reconfigured it and?
So without naming, so if you look at how the subcommittee was put together for public works, I think is if you have everyone in a committee comes together, step back a little bit, everyone comes with a certain idea already in their head where it should go. And I would say the people that were placed into the public works subgroup had a tendency to try really hard to find an alternative to MCI. Yeah, they were not people coming in immediately saying it's MCI or nothing. And that's why they also looked broader and identified properties where in the last months we got a lot of heat from the public for it. Yeah, and I think it's the most efficient solution, even if we have to take that one building down, that building L, and rebuild it. It's still more efficient because you're freeing up Kais Road. And then just, for example, placing it completely greenfield somewhere else. If you do it on Kais Road, it's too small, so you have to acquire potentially another lot nearby, and you have to rebuild during operations.
Yeah.
That was the most complex and most expensive solution.
Okay.
So again,
So it's possible, it's the logistics.
it's
Okay.
everything is
Yeah.
possible.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just a matter of money in the end.
Yep, yep. Well, you're right, everything's about money, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, great. I'm just going to turn it over to the other board members. Paul, do you follow? You were on the committee, so I know.
Public Works. Originally, the planning was we needed, I forget what the acreage was, with 17 acre, I forget what the.
It was originally around the 12 plus
12
minus something.
Okay, so we don't have, at MCI, there's what we saw, Elisa presented earlier, is not 12 acres.
No.
So it's less.
Yes.
So would that still accommodate Public Works?
That was a lot of.
I know there's been a lot of discussions
A lot of
about that.
massaging
Yeah.
on the public works side to really bring this down to the minimal footprint. I think is what the advantage is here on the MCI side, that parts of the 300-foot setback can be used for it.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the first drafts from the consultants on MCI was using significant pieces of the foot setback for parking, which then needed to public works suddenly creeping in much more into developable areas of MCI. The new one is trying to pull that back maximum to use more of the setback for public works and really minimize the footprint. We have to see where in the end it falls, but I think that whatever we do, everyone needs to compromise. So in this sense, public works needs to scale down as the minimum footprint is possible. Yeah, and perhaps the MCI has to give in some acres.
Right.
So
But-
there's not an optimal solution
Right,
for everyone.
but to Wendy's point, I mean, notwithstanding all the complications of Kai's Road rebuilding, the acreage is not, you can probably squeeze what you need in there versus, I mean, the acreage is not that different. So the acreage thing is kind of off the table, but there are other complications.
It's
to
still
that.
50%
Yeah.
more than what you have.
So, what I can sink my teeth into upgrading public safety facilities and the building committee for that. I can sink my teeth into public works. When I get to the long-term capital planning, I mean, we have to do long-term capital planning, but I'm wondering what form that takes place, because some of the long-term capital planning is squarely on public safety and public works. I mean, those are the two, if you add up all the pieces on that, that we really have to tackle it. So our long-range capital planning, whatever long range is coincident with those two pieces. So if we had a long-range planning capital, they'd probably have to tackle that first, and they'd have to integrate with the public safety building committee at the same time. When I look at what you have for the capital planning, there's so much overlap with some of the other pieces. I'm just wondering, and overlap with staff functions as well. I'm just a little fuzzy on that piece versus the public safety building committee. My last question, on the building committee, could a building committee be more expansive than just public safety? Could a building committee take on?
Well, it is up to the select board. So
No, but I'm just.
we are not doing
I
this.
know,
And
but I'm
again,
just saying integrating some of these pieces.
on the capital planning, that could be something that could be internally. It could not be a standalone public committee. It could be internal functions that do these things. But
Yeah.
one important part is why this looks like a lot of overlap, but also a lot of other tasks. You cannot do a capital planning with all these moving pieces we have in Concord by just looking, we just take public works and safety and we make that placeholder in the timeline, and this is where we need 50 million, then we need 70 million. That's not that. Then you will in the end just raise it by taxes and will increase taxes in the town. If you want to be smart, you have to look really from a from a connected, less silo view. And that's what this working group, where however you're structuring it, internally, externally, needs to connect the different dots, the timing of it, the puzzles, how, if you consolidate, what can be freed up, what are the instruments you can use, so that these things fall together in time, or you need a bridge financing at a certain time because we know in 2 years you can do this. This is a much more complex thing.
Yeah.
And that needs to be done somewhere.
Well, that's what I'm saying, a building committee, and I'll stop talking in a minute. A building committee takes on those major capital pieces. A big piece of it is public safety. And the public safety building committee, that's what they have to do. They have to come up with a capital plan and a building plan.
For that building, that's a silo view.
For that building.
Yeah, so it's really.
But that's a task of a building committee.
That's a silo view.
Okay.
Yeah, the same, you have a silo view on MCI, you have a silo view here.
Yeah. Well, you're describing silo view.
You're tending on silo views.
Yeah.
And if you look back in history, perhaps we had sorry, that's Sven talking, not the committee. We had a silo view, how we time our expenses and investments in schools. We had to do it. But then we got the big surprise about, oh my God, we have all the other things. So we really have this interconnection that not people and citizens are surprised at a certain point, what is all coming together here?
Yeah, and I'm not an advocate of silo view. I'm just saying a building committee. I'm thinking of task versus silos.
Yeah.
Building committee has, it has to be integrated.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. Just saying how to move on, how to structure a new committee.
Yeah, Judith.
Oh, Judith Jones.
Judith's on.
Judith, are you there?
I see Judith.
It says her phone's there.
Yeah, her phone is there. Okay.
Dean, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that when we spin up a committee to create a building, a public safety building, public works facility, whatever, they don't really do what we're referring to more broadly as capital planning. What they're doing is creating a budget to create their building.
Right.
Which is how the middle school building committee functioned. They did a feasibility study. They said, this is kind of the stuff we want in our school. And then, you spitball a few designs, and then the designs start to tell you what your budget is going to be, which is much different than capital planning, where you're trying to figure out where can we find money and when can we find it, which is not really the purview of a building committee per se. So I'm just trying to make that distinction because I think Sven is right that we do need a separate function to take on these broader questions.
Right.
Yep.
So.
All right, Mary?
First of all, I want to thank you, Sven and Judith, for doing this work. This was a lot of work, and my colleagues on the land use working group. I think we need to remember that we didn't have any money and we didn't have any consultants to help us. So this is all work that we did ourselves with your leadership. So thank you and Judith very much for that. I'm kind of sympathetic to Paul's comment about, there's some things here you can really get your teeth into, but I'm having a hard time distinguishing between the work of a long-range capital planning committee and a long-range land use planning committee. I mean, those to me seem like a lot of the words you're using, which is stop thinking in silos and think how you can do trade-offs. They all seem to fit in the. So can you help me distinguish between those two recommendations?
So I think the land use, and I don't see, she's gone, she's not there anymore. So this is really focused on how, in this sense, really, how do you use the land?
Right.
Whereas the other one is,
Yes.
how do you finance the capital needs over time? And there's an interconnection here again.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yep.
But we have to understand how do we use the land. Because we have already reserved a lot of the land.
Mm-hmm.
And each discussion we will have, even let's say it's public works would not be falling in MCI. Where would we place it? And so what is our view on land use?
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at the discussion, and again, we made the right decision to take it off the table, but if you look at a discussion on Peter Springfields, it's a large lot. And we need to have that land use view overall to say, you know what? We want to reserve that for X, Y, Z reasons. And you know what, then, let's say, Peabody,
Yep.
what do we do with that? It's a piece of land. Kais Road, if it frees up, what do we do with this piece of land? And how does that fit in the overall goals and characters? So right now, our land use work so far are certain nice goals, but
But
Okay.
so does long range,
What is-
that long range land use plan, it's gonna ask the questions about how much of our land do we want agriculture? Do we want conservation at 30%? Do we want to go to 40%? You know, I'm
No,
just
you're already
saying,
at 38%,
big picture,
yeah.
you have to have your vision for what you need as a community, right? And then you're gonna start plugging
Yeah.
in where you have opportunities into that larger
but also be
strategy and
transparent
vision.
what it means if you're saying let's extreme, you increase conservation land from 38% today to 60%.
What does that mean? Right,
What does it mean?
right,
Yeah.
yeah.
What does it mean for the taxpayer? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I asked about best practice. I just wanted to see it, like, understand, but I'm guessing now.
Could I make a quick comment?
Carrie.
So from my perspective, this long-range land planning, this is the scope of work for the master plan update. This
Yeah,
this
that's-
is the, we've talked before, fiscal 28 or 29 is when we will be updating Envision 2030. The difference between Envision 2030 and the traditional master plan is, from my perspective, Envision 2030 is really talking about programs and services planning and not land planning.
Yeah.
And so this, to me, seems almost one of
That's
the
fair.
easiest things to do because we are gearing up to
I'd agree.
to do this work, and this will be helpful to determine the scope for that project.
Yeah,
Good.
good.
And we're also gearing up for an open space and rec plan, which is, does a significant amount of work, especially around our conservation land. And that's coming up right away.
It's in
Delia's
process, isn't
put
it?
that out for bid as a contract.
It's starting, but they have to be integrated.
Yes, they do. That's,
Oh, yeah.
that integration. Right, Cameron.
Yeah, listen, it's great work, so thank you. Just great work by you and the team. And a lot of work, I know. I'm in full agreement with the topics, right? And what you've sort of recommended in terms of the content. I think there's still a little bit more work that we need to do and think about in terms of how we organize to get that work done. So is it one committee? Is it two committees? How do we work with the town staff, right? What does that look like? I think I'm not actually ready to say I know the answer. I want to digest that a little bit more and think about like, okay, how do we best organize to get that done? But I think importantly, your comments around, as I thought about it, as I was listening to you talk, is just we need to understand sort of the inputs and outputs over time, right? Because it's sort of like, well, what is available to us to perhaps generate money, generate things, consolidate facilities, sell off surplus. We also have to understand the debt that's rolling off. We have to understand that, that whole schedule and what that looks like, right? And then start to layer in the scenarios that say, okay, what if? What are our highest priorities? When do we think those things could happen? And it gets even more interesting when you start layering in new construction that's going to add, people moving into the town, right? And what does that mean for our public works? What does that mean for the size and timing and needs of those facilities, and when we can actually start to generate some of the tax revenue that could perhaps help support that? So fully supportive of everything that you just said, and I think we're probably going to have to digest how we want to organize to get that done.
The good news is we're committing. We're ready and committed to
just
start
wanna-
working on it.
One last comment, let's not lose track of the revenue side of this thing. Sort of buried in recommended 4D is a line that says, let's look at the revenue sources from the town properties.
Yeah.
And so maybe we ought to bring that up as a specific task, because we have a lot of information that's
Yeah.
on the way, and we have pieces to sell, and
Yep.
So I think that we need to probably keep that in mind
Yeah.
as a specific task.
Right. Right. Okay. Let me just take the opportunity. This is an important report. Are there members of the community that have questions about this report? I'll ask if you're online, use the raise hand function, and if there's people in the room, you should come up to the table. No? Okay, you had your chance. All right,
Thank
Sven,
you.
thank you so much. And please pass on our appreciation to Judith as well. I don't think she had to drop again, so. Okay. All right, so 8. I think we're doing okay. We're ahead of schedule. That's a first. Okay. All right, just wait. All right, so next on our agenda, next on our agenda is the select board goals
is the-
discussion. So,
Yeah.
so Mary, this is probably the first time you've seen it. Well, all of us have seen a consolidated list. So we've discussed goals in 3 separate meetings. I went back and re-reviewed and listened to all of those sessions again and tried to incorporate all those updates. So I have there's a couple things I wanted to highlight that I did, but then as we go through, I want other people to chime in. Let me just review what I did that might not have been exactly what we said in the meeting. First I just want to point out we did identify creation of a building committee. So Mary, when you saw this before, it said create public safety, and we said, no, let's create a building committee. And obviously, we're going to start with the priorities that were identified by the land use working group. So that's the expectation there. And right below that, we had Peabody disposition. We had a lot of discussion about could we really sell it? No, we need to start by getting town meeting authorization to sell it. So that is on the list for a goal. So that's a start there. Under cell service, we had a discussion. We had an open question about should we reintroduce the cell service zoning amendment same amendment from last year and reintroduce it this year. We were going to have a follow-up with the planning board. So Dean, I'm going to put you on the spot. Did you get a chance to follow up
I
with the
did
planning
follow
board?
up, but I have not received any feedback yet
Okay.
regarding that. I'm just waiting for them to see if they have any appetite for bringing the cell phone article back to the next town meeting, and I don't have that feedback yet.
Right. So Mary, you can anticipate. We're not changing it. It would be exactly the same thing, which is something that we did
Going
in
to
this
bat
last.
again.
Yes, going to bat again because it was just one vote. So
Okay.
ideally, it's not reinventing. the
Wendy,
wheel.
do you want us to comment as you go, or do you want to go through these?
Yeah, let's focus on the strategic planning section. So, and let me just say one other thing on the strategic planning section. Under transportation and mobility, Paul had identified moving this into the strategy section. One of the things that I did was I moved the Lowell Regional Transit Authority goal into that same goal under transportation and mobility. We had something called regional collaboration. I'm just like, it doesn't make sense. Let's just put it in with transportation.
Yeah.
So that's it. We're still trying to figure out what those projects are, but I think I wrote it up generically enough. Here, it just said evaluate joining the Lowell Regional Transit Authority and developing implementation plans for local bus route. So that's sort of what was listed there. So that's strategic planning. Those are the comments I had there. Let's go by section. So Paul, did you have other thoughts on the strategic planning?
Yeah, just one on the housing strategy, number 3, it says purchase 91B.
Oh.
That's subject to
The environmental
that's subject
approval.
to
So,
environmental
yeah.
assessment, so we won't know.
Yeah,
about
no.
that.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
But
Yeah, we
the
talked
assessment-
about that. I don't remember.
Well,
Yeah.
what we said is if it passed, the assumption
Yeah,
is we
just-
would proceed,
yeah.
right,
Right.
but it should be contingent, right?
And I'd like to say something about a West Concord cell service, even though that was deferred to FY 27, and this is FY 27. So at least we have to kind of start something in West Concord to understand the things that were left unsaid. So I'd like to say something about resume.
So the trick there, if I recall, Megan was saying, the problem is you can't commit to it unless you have funding to do it. So I think what the discussion we had was, let's first find a way to get the funding. And so here, the goal was to try to redirect some of those cell service revenues to do that. I think, I mean, that was the discussion we had, but So you're still wanting to pursue doing
I think
studies in
in
West
FY
Concord?
'27, I'd like to start on that, because it was left, and what does that mean? I think there's coverage issues. Do we need cell service? I'd rather kind of answer the basic questions. What's the coverage, and do we need cell service there? Then we can
Right.
move forward in next fiscal year. So some early planning around West Concord there, because we kind of left that hanging. Anyway, that's,
Yeah, I guess, and my only point was if we do it, it's contingent on getting the funding, right? Because I think we don't have endless amounts of money,
Yeah.
endless amount of resources. And I'm looking at this list of goals. We have a ton of goals, and I'm just very
I
sensitive
don't
to staff.
disagree with that. I
Yeah,
just,
right.
what would we use the money for? Because Concord Center is mentioned, Concord Landfill, West Concord isn't mentioned. Look, we cannot have it in there, fine. I just want to make that comment.
Yeah,
Well, you could put West Concord under the number 4 there, Paul. You could say, develop a plan for redirecting cell service lease revenues to support expanded analysis in
and
West Concord.
improvements.
Including,
and
you can just say
yeah,
including,
including.
including West Concord or
Including
something.
West Concord.
And I want to mention two things under transportation and mobility, whether we want to make them goals or not, because I think they're really important. One is roadway safety. I think the issues of crashes and safety are very, very important to the community. They're very prominent right now. I think there's a lot of activity in town on roadway safety. It's pretty ad hoc now between TAC and community development and the transportation management group and police department. There's a lot of disparate pieces. And I think I'd like to see the select board kind of center that in some policy or center that in some direction on roadway safety, because other communities are doing that, and I think we should pay some attention to that, whether that is a policy or whether that's just consolidating activities or making sure. So I'll just throw that out there.
Can you
for
include it in item
consideration.
number 2?
Sorry.
What's number 2 of which? So the other thing I just.
No, it says specify highest priority actions.
Well, there are a number of
I'm just asking if you couldn't say including
that's okay.
safety.
The transportation plan is going to have, which we haven't reviewed, is going to have a lot of actions, and we need an action plan around that. But I do think we need to emphasize roadway safety across the board. So how we do that, is that a goal or not? I'll kind of open that for,
Yeah, no, I was
discussion.
proposing that
yeah.
highest priority actions, including.
You can say
safety.
including roadway safety.
Yeah, that's all. It was just so that it's
Yeah.
noted.
And the last thing I'll mention, because I think a number of you know I have a bug about this, is the cumulative traffic impacts of development in West Concord. We are hopeful that the bonding bill will give us funding for looking at that sort of beyond the MCI development. We touched on it earlier when Elisa was discussing traffic, transportation impacts in West Concord from all the developments. And I think if we get funding from that, fine. But if we don't get funding from that, I think we should have a goal to seek funding for that type of study.
I think that's
we really
important.
Understand what's going to happen in West Concord with the 240Bs across the road in Acton with MCI. I do think there's this cumulative traffic congestion and the impact on economics, and I think that's just really
Yep.
important to the community. So I don't, and when if we just added sort of seek funding for that kind of cumulative study,
Or-
and if we get the
Yeah.
bonding bill, boom, we hit that goal. If we don't, we have to figure out how to do
I mean, I think that's really important. I agree with you on that one.
So,
I think we're going to have a tough time going and explaining, here's MCI, here's all these things, if we haven't.
I think it's
looked
going to
at-
come up in the
Yeah.
context
It
of
is gonna-
town
Yeah.
meeting. I think
it's going to come up.
it's going to come up. Might as well head that off.
All right, so it's around seek funding, much in line with what we put in the bond bill.
Judy?
It's much like what we put as a request for the bond bill.
Right.
But it's not, I don't know if it's the same economic study. It's really transportation.
It's to
impact.
seek the cumulative impacts of developments in West Concord. And part of that would be economic, but more, again, it's safety, it's just traffic congestion, and what kind of mitigation might we
Yep.
need? We've got to talk about mitigation at some point.
Maybe you can send me a sentence for that goal.
Okay, I will.
That'd be great.
I will. Those are my comments on
Great.
the strategy section. Thank you.
Okay. Dean, I don't want to forget you up there. 'cause you're
No,
there.
I'm fine. Don't worry
Okay.
about it.
Okay, and strategy.
I'll chime right in, don't worry.
Okay, that's good. You're good at that. No, in a good way. Cameron, any thoughts on this?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
If you want to go to
Yeah,
this
I'm,
financial management?
okay, sure.
Did you have
Can't remember
anything?
what I changed
Did you have anything that you wanted to highlight, Wendy?
on the
Sorry.
financial. There was one thing. The only thing that I changed here was we were talking about the roads. This is Dean, was yours at the roads program, looking at how do we move that to a cash basis. And I just added a sentence here about consider funding strategies which allow for road contracts in advance of annual town meeting. And that's the goal where we just don't want to have to wait for annual approval. We want to get funding far enough ahead so we can do these multi-year contracts. So that was the only change I made.
I'm not sure how getting a multi-year contract aligns with getting us onto a cash basis.
But it's the
Carrie,
idea
comment
of
on
not
that.
being stuck to operational annual funding requests. So it's a funding strategy if you can do it in a cash basis. So, maybe it's our 5-year program. It's 5 years, but if we start requesting, I don't know, a year before. So you're creating a revolving fund to allow you to capture funds for construction. I'm not sure. I'm just asking the question. What I was sensitive to was we're always behind the 8 ball because we have to wait and go out to bid and et cetera, where what we
Understood.
saw was that
Yep.
the benefit of the 5-year funding allowed us to just get going a whole lot faster.
We have been creating a number of stabilization funds, and we might think about this as you're putting money aside to get yourself into a position where you have a stabilization fund that can allow you to contract in a timely manner so that you don't, you're not waiting for the roads to
Or-
get started. So
Yep, or wait.
I
for
don't know.
dead
There's
authorization.
probably some thought there that needs to be.
All right, well, we can.
But my goal is really to just get us off the use of debt if we
Right,
can.
right.
That's all. That's my main goal.
Okay. The other people have comments and edits on the finance section?
Yeah, there's one in the very first one where it says, number 2, it says release of unneeded funds. I don't think unneeded is the right word. I think whether it's excess or
What's this one
Unused.
under?
'cause we
I think
gotta
it's
need-
unused.
Hmm?
Unused.
unused. Yes, unused.
Unused fund. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think is a
And what's-
better.
It is, yeah.
Which one's that under? What's,
That's number
improve
2.
The first one, number 2.
oh, okay, number 2, sorry. Yeah,
Release
got it,
of
got it.
unused
Yeah.
funds. Yeah, that's right.
Those really are unneeded funds. So those are like projects that have been completed and they got money put aside and they didn't use all of it, or they had an authorization that needs to be rescinded. That's really unused. That's not a bad word for what we're doing there.
It's
Well,
fine.
it's unused. I'm not saying it's, to say it's
Unneeded.
unneeded would mean we don't need it.
Well,
But
it's
we could-
unneeded
we
for
could
its
re-
original
Needed
purpose.
the
We could
project that
repurpose.
was
But I'm
unused.
fine with unused. I think.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
okay, it's fine.
Fine.
Either
Changed.
way.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
And the other thing, the OPEB and retirement, I sat down with Jennifer. She very generously gave me an hour and told me a little bit about that. I don't think, this is a long-term issue. I'm not sure this is an FY '27 goal. I think we need to do this when we actually catch up on those.
Well, and we got a little, from what I saw in the latest FinCom meeting, we got a little bit of a.
There's been a change.
The unfunded liability went up by $7 million.
Yes, there are other issues there, but I think here,
No, the
For the
retirement.
retirement.
So retirement is now not going to be fully funded until
We're
30,
not
retired,
36 versus 32.
but I got a good explanation for that. I think Jennifer's going to explain that to FinCom, but anyway, I'll let her do
I
that.
think we should all,
But I'm just saying, I'm
We should
wondering
all
if this is,
better understand that,
Yeah.
yes.
is this an FY '27 goal to,
It really just says provide a report. So it was really trying to get to the kind of mountain chart that we see for debt, where we know where
right.
the debt is falling off. It's just trying to get us to have some visibility on these. It's not like we're getting out in the near term. I don't see us getting out. I just want to, we just need some visibility on that. Like you spend an hour, but do we each need to spend an hour to get to
Yeah.
the bottom of those things, or can we just get a basic?
It's like the
report?
mountain of debt.
well, I
but
think
it's for
finance,
OPEB
I
and-
think finance department is doing that, but I'm just, it's important to do, but it's a select board goal. That's my,
Is it a presentation?
It's
I
a
think we need to
presentation.
understand
I think
it.
it's
I
a
think we need to understand
It's
it.
it's a basic, it's just having it in front of us and have maybe
Yes.
an annual look at where we are with these
Yeah.
things, that's all.
So
Yeah.
we could, I mean, we pay an actuary
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
do a report on each of those
We-
each
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
And so I
We
think
should-
it's a presentation.
Yes.
of-
I think
Yeah.
it is.
That's what it
It's very
That's fine.
useful to have a presentation.
Yes.
Yes.
We should,
About a presentation.
The goal was provide a report. That's, I mean, that's the success.
Yep.
Well, that's what it says. Thank you.
We have that. We already did it. We've completed that goal.
Well, but does
We're
it,
in.
what Dean was looking for was sort of, it's kind of like the mountain of debt, but it's the projected
It's the projected,
liabilities.
it's the projected roll-off of these items, that's all. Yeah.
All right, anything else in this section? And then others?
no, looks,
Yeah.
I mean, great job pulling together a lot of different comments, so
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Okay. All right, I'll move on to the effective and transparent government. I think, the only thing on here that I want to point out was, Mary, because you weren't here and your goals weren't here, we did update something around about creating a welcome, inclusive, and diverse community. We removed, you had something about, I don't know if it's celebrate untold stories, I don't forget, but we sort of incorporated it into what's now the last item, recognize historical community contributions.
I saw that,
Um,
and I thought that was really well done. I
Okay.
think what we have written here, but I would like to go back to.
Can you lean into the mic, Mary?
Oh, sorry,
yeah.
sorry.
That's
Sorry,
all right.
Dean. I said that what is written now under recognizing voices, I thought that was really well done. That's the last goal under effective and transparent government. But I want to go back to the rewrite of the goal under creating a welcoming, inclusive, and diverse community around DEI-related training.
Yeah,
And I remember when I had put that in as a proposal, it was mandatory training, and I'm
Right.
assuming that you had a very
discussion.
robust discussion
Yeah.
about
Mhm.
that. And I can understand why you might pull away from mandatory. This seems to be very, very watered down from that, and I'm wondering if we could strengthen this to make it a little bit more compelling for people to actually go to the training. This is, oh, it's available, but how do we get people to go? How do we measure whether people are going? So I'm asking, could we put more stronger wordage here to like make compelling training about, make dynamic training, make, you know, and unfortunately I don't have the words with me, and to measure how many people are actually taking this training. So to me, there's a big range between what I originally proposed and what I'm reading, how I'm interpreting
Yeah.
what's here.
We definitely removed that mandate.
I know.
That was
I
the
know.
discussion.
So what word?
Well, and I
what-
think
what-
some of it was the discussion, and Kerry, remind us, because we went to the discussion of what do we
Do
already
today,
do
right?
today.
Oh, okay.
So I think we wanted, that was kind of a
Yeah,
baseline.
That's true. We did, so I do remember. Now,
Okay,
we
good.
had talked about, the town clerk's office has, this past year, instituted the quarterly trainings on governance, and we thought we could add another component to those quarterly trainings on topics that would fall under this category. And that, I think we've had a pretty good turnout at those
Yeah.
trainings, so that was one opportunity.
Then I think maybe making that more explicit might be helpful, because when I read this.
So we
not
could say
having been
something.
Privy to the conversations,
Yeah.
I was like, make something available. I mean, who's going, there's no.
Well,
Yeah.
or we could
So-
it's a proposal, could we specify, add or include in those quarterly trainings a
Right.
DEI component?
Right, and also.
Or ensure that there's a DEI component or something.
And I'd also ask that we have some kind of collection as far as how many people are actually taking it.
Yeah, we should
And not
track
just
it,
staff,
yeah,
but
for
also
sure.
committee
Yeah.
members. How do we get this out to not just staff at the quarterly, but how do we get out to committee members? And how do we make sure that the quality of this training is something that compels people to go? So to strengthen this. Good.
Yeah, can you help with that?
I'll-
Okay, all right. But I agree, sort of strengthening the participation.
Yeah, and so I'll,
Language.
we'll work on that.
And definitely tracking the training. We should be doing that. Yeah,
Just to see how many people we're reaching.
right.
Thank you.
Can I say something about that last category? So, the previous version had sort of two committees. And I've had a lot of discussion with the Historical Commission, and they have, they're going to make recommendations to us on how to proceed with this, whether it should be a new committee, whether they should take that on. So this is correct, I think. We're going to need advice from the Historical Commission. It's appropriate to delegate to them sort of advice on how to do this.
Well, we
What-
actually already discussed this as a select board and decided that we were going to institute a Revolutionary War Memorial Committee.
Right, I'm talking about number two.
Oh, number
Yeah.
two.
Number
Okay.
two.
So you're
Right.
saying, you're not saying,
No, I'm saying,
I'm not
we're
listening,
sticking
sorry.
with number two, although I will, as an aside,
yes,
I noted that the town of Lexington has a committee called Monuments Memorials, and they combine those, they combine the need for the Revolutionary War Memorial with, okay, what else do we need there? So I'm not advocating we do that, but there's some precedent for having one committee versus two. I know way back when we first discussed this, you were not in favor of that, so I'll defer to that. So there is one, the Revolutionary War Committee stays.
right?
I'm just saying the next one is not yet a committee or a subcommittee.
That's right.
It's-
So-
we're
Right.
going-
Well, we
we're
didn't
gonna
say
develop-
how, we just said
We're going
we
to develop
would.
a strategy for how
Yeah.
to do that.
And you're
Yeah.
suggesting it should be done by the historical.
Well,
and I think that's-
no, I've asked them as the liaison to give us advice on
Yeah.
whether,
Okay.
and the options are whether the select board develops a committee, whether they have a subcommittee, or whether they take it on as a task. I think it needs broad representation in town beyond just the historical commission, because the DI commission, there are others, there are lots of stakeholders in what we do to celebrate historically important peoples in town. We've had the Black History markers, almost behind us, or maybe it's behind us now, and that's a great project proceeding. So what's the next project? What's the next? So they need to answer that, how to do that.
So what does
with
that
this-
mean? What's the select board goal then?
It's right here, develop a strategy for identifying,
Based on their advice?
well, yes.
Well, we need to get their advice first.
Yeah, that's
Right.
that's a column over on the right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we don't do all these things ourselves. The historical commission and others, but prominent historical commission is going to take the first crack at, and I think Doug said they take it on pretty soon. That's a high
Mary, just full
priority.
disclosure, on this topic, there was a discussion about another committee. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want another committee.
I heard-
either.
I really wanted the
I heard that-
I wanted the
I
historic
don't either.
commission to sort of look at
I'm
it,
with
so.
you there. I
Yeah.
think we have enough.
I think it's
So-
good the way it's written.
We're good at,
Yeah, that's
Okay.
good.
we're good at.
Well, we have a
adding
building.
committees. We're not
We-
good
If
at.
we're
we
being
should-
very
for each new
detail-oriented,
committee, we should retire
the
one
War
committee.
Memorial should probably be a task force, because once it's done, it's done. And that
That's a
thing-
good
Right.
point.
Oh,
It is.
task
That
force.
point.
That's a
All
task
right.
force. You're
It is.
right. Take
Yep,
that
at
word out.
most.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
so I'm good with it. I just want to
I thought it
describe
was
how that
great.
changed.
When I
Yeah.
read it, I
Alright.
thought it was great, yeah.
And then, no, I was moving to the next thing. Anything else on this section?
No, I'm good to go.
Okay. On the resilience and sustainability, one, I just wanted to, Dean, I still had a question about the energy infrastructure. I think you confirmed it would be end of year, right? This is the,
I do believe so. I mean, that's kind of the way we are. I mean, that's my take. Where are we on here? Let me see where what are you looking at? Energy infrastructure.
I did see it in
Yeah.
Engineering to
Carrie's.
allow incidental power. That is an administrative task, as far as I'm aware at this point. That's what
Okay.
Jason has conveyed to me. It's administrative. There's no new equipment required on either Eversource's side or ours. So
Okay.
it's paperwork.
Okay.
Okay, I did have one suggestion on the CMS solar, which is not actually the goals themselves or the timing, but I wonder if it should be stated as something like partner with school committee and school leadership to complete the installation, because I just think it's important that we're, because it isn't, I mean, it might be a select board goal, but it
No,
is
that's a
actually,
part- No, you're right, yeah.
so that was all, was just to
Good point.
sort of,
Partner, yeah.
we
Yeah, I'll
need
give
to,
you a little update during the liaison reports on
Yeah.
CMS solar.
yeah, but I think if we
Sure.
can add that
Yeah.
we'll partner
That's
with,
fine.
with
That-
them.
That's absolutely true, and I've been working very closely with
Yep.
Sandy
Great.
at this point on this. Yep.
Great, thanks, Dean. All right, Mary, anything else? Because you really missed those lovely 3 discussions when you weren't here.
No, I'm fine.
It's all
I'm
good?
fine.
Okay.
I-
So I think we're really close on these goals. Do we want to vote on these goals with minor modifications to be brought back?
It works for me.
Fine for me.
Oh, yes, we should take, yes, I'm sorry. Thank you for that reminder. So for folks who are remote, I'll ask you to use your raise hand feature. And I just raised my own hand. I got a little, sorry. Just trying to see who's there. Yeah, so for people in the room, just come up to the table. Yeah, come on, I'm sorry. I'm too busy putting my hand down.
Craig Allmiller,
Great, thanks.
27 Lang Street. I was very disappointed by the removal of the mandatory language about the DEI in training, particularly in the argument that was made that seemed to carry the day. And I don't know everything, of course, that you're discussing, but by watching your meeting where you debated this, was that if you had a training in DEI, you'd have to have a training in everything, which would cost maybe millions of dollars. And I would point out to you, and I would remind you, that of all the things that have come up before you as a select board, nobody has spoken with more passion and concern and seriousness in looking for leadership from you than about DEI issues. You can call it in a number of ways. Anti-Semitism, DEI issue. Racism, DEI issue. Gay pride, DEI issue. However you want to frame it, this is what the community is looking to you to do. And you don't seem to understand even what it is. If you think it's something that can just be like anything else, any other training, which is how the conversation went, which is how the argument went, then you're desperately in need of it. And the community is looking to you. And I cannot, again, I'm new to Concord, and you continually surprise me. When things that look like just the most obvious, it's in the newspaper all the time, these are issues that will follow you no matter what you do, so you should know about it. It's what America is about. Diversity, equity, inclusion. That's what the Constitution's about. So as a governing board, I regard that as something that you, along with conflict of interest, sexual harassment, etc., that's training that you are obliged to take. Thanks.
Thank you. Do I see any other raised hands? Deb? Yeah, come on up. You have to speak really close. Yeah, thank you.
Good evening, Deborah Dorfman, 27 Lang Street. And I just want to ask you, before you vote, please reconsider the question of whether the training for DEI, the DEI training that Ms. Harmon proposed, please reconsider what you discussed last week or the last time you had your meeting, and reconsider establishing a mandatory training. There's really no downside to it, and there can only be upsides. And having worked with the town on the hate and bias working group, we know from talking to folks in the town that this is a really big issue, and it's continuing. And the stories that people told us when we had the focus groups about the experiences that they had in this town, and we've all talked about this for quite a bit of time, and how we want to make changes here, and that is going to be a big part of the change. It's about leadership, but it's also about modeling for the town. And there are so many benefits that can be had, and there's so much loss if you don't make it mandatory. And you know, it's not just the people on the select board, it's all the volunteers, it's all the people who are working on the various committees, because it has, to me, these principles need to be embedded in all of the work that we're doing if we're really going to bring around change. So I really, once again, ask you to please reconsider. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Joe, did you have your hand up?
See you. I see y'all. I think the first time I saw this on the agenda was maybe the end of June. And we had talked about this at the last DEI Commission. I'm Joe Palumbo, a member of the DEI Commission. I'm speaking for myself. And when Mary was at that meeting, we mentioned how important having mandatory training would be. So I tracked it on every one of your agendas, and it always said mandatory until this one. So the one meeting I missed was the last one I went back and looked, and I saw this conversation you had. So I just thought if we just have a little bit of a conversation to make sure you understand, at least from our perspective or my perspective, or folks who these issues are important to, why mandatory is important. I've been to a lot of committee meetings as a member or as a visitor in the last 4 years, and stuff happens. People say strange things. People say things that are offensive to groups of folks who are marginalized, whether it's the first 250 meeting I went to and I said, you know, the select board really wants us to do diverse things. Another committee member looked at me and said, oh, we're going to start talking about trans Minutemen now? Just recently, when we were working on the Black Heritage Trail, one of the first meetings of the Black Heritage Trail, another committee member from another committee in town told a group of Black citizens, you folks need to just step back on this issue. So when these folks said these things, they weren't we have to assume goodwill, right? They were just speaking because they had never been given proper training, never been proper exposure about what the modern workplace is like. And that's why I said to you, Mary, we don't have an HR department for our committees. We just have good folks in town who want to do stuff. But sometimes the stuff we want to do comes out in ways that are no longer appropriate in the modern workplace. And we owe it to these committee members, we owe it to the staff, which I know you all work on, to help them learn the skills they need to navigate these kind of conversations. Race, inclusion, sexuality, ageism, all of these are part of our world. And if we don't help our citizens learn to talk about these in appropriate ways, we go through some of the things we've been through in the last year, in addition to what's just going on in our community. So my argument for having mandatory training is to at least allow the people who serve on our committees to get the skills they need. Dean, I think you said last time you did go to the training and how good it was, but there were only 10 people there. Right. Why were there only 10 people there? Because it was not mandatory. Even those 4 sessions that the clerk's office does, they're really good, but if they're not mandatory, people don't go. So it's something to consider. Maybe you just want to start with the chairs of all committees. Start with them. But we really need to make some progress at showing that you all, as I think the other speaker said, are showing leadership on this. It can't just be a little static issue that just kind of comes up every once in a while. This is fundamental to the change we're trying to make in this town, and we're really looking to you to provide the leadership on this. If I can be answering any questions or bring more clarity to the examples I gave.
Joe, can I ask a question? You know, we think of training, it's always in person right there, and I think that's the most effective training. Would any sort of online training help? Because when I worry about mandate, everyone has a different schedule, people can't get to the meeting, so that for me, there's a little logistics challenge. But I hear your passion, and I agree that it's really important for people to be better educated on this issue. But so I guess to your answers, it could be online training. That would at least be an opportunity or so.
That's right. Think about the conflict of interest training. Everyone on every committee has to take conflict of interest training because we realize that's important, because if you're a committee member, you're a municipal employee by default, right?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it's good reference.
When everyone does it, they figure out if you want to be in a committee, you better take that darn thing and sit through it. We could have an online one to start with, offer some in-person ones, but at least make that an expectation for the town.
I think it's an important change. Just make it important but easy for people
Right,
to
that's-
That's right.
get trained.
I mean,
yeah.
and we know it won't solve everything, right? But at least we've said we've tried to help people develop some skills that might. The workplace at 2026 is very different than the workplace in 1997, which for some folks might have been the last time they were. So we owe it to them to help them.
All right. Good. Thank you, Joe.
Okay,
Appreciate
thanks a
it.
lot.
You know what, I feel like we need to revise this. I don't, I want to pursue, what I've been concerned about is sort of mandatory getting everybody in a room. We can't even get people to come to a committee. So I would like to explore, so let me just say one other thing. The other thing we talked about on this topic was that the DEI Commission is also wrapping up your summary and summarizing that, and that they're, part of what will come out of that is sort of an action plan of items. And I think, I assume education is going to be part of that. So we have a tie into the DEI Commission actions and the survey results, which may inform what is the training that's going to be on. But so, I feel like we definitely need to develop training. I don't know if quarterly is going to be sufficient if we really are trying to reach everybody.
Right.
I think it would be beneficial to have some kind of online version because it really would make it easy for some people. Although I would also want to have in-person training because I think that's more valuable.
So it's really to provide mandatory online training or,
So I'm sorry,
online should be
mandatory
in
training for town employees, for everyone who's
Employees,
on,
committees.
a committee?
Committee chairs.
We could start with committee
Let's
chairs.
start with committee chairs, and that would be a good starting point.
It definitely would be. a good
Committee chairs
start.
would help us conduct meetings in a respectful manner
Yeah.
and make sure everybody's on top of
Chairs and clerks.
what's being.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing that we want to revise that goal to be,
Right.
well, it's a proposal to require mandatory training, online training for committee chairs.
Don't forget, we have to develop the training.
I know.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Sure, you have
I'm
something to
I'm
say.
not there in terms of like making. I mean, so to me, there's a little bit of a slippery slope, right? I mean, I'm not opposed to. Again, we talked about DEI. We talked about what it is that's done at the town and how we could, how we can sort of expand that. I just want to be thoughtful about. We're asking people to join a committee. Okay, we want to have DEI training. That's mandatory? Do we want to have unconscious bias training that's mandatory? Do we want to have sexual harassment training that's mandatory? Do we have other things that we need? So now you want to join a committee. Here's the list of mandatory things that you have to go through. I don't know that we'll get, here's the laundry list of all the things that you have to do before we'll consider you for being on a committee. I'm not sure we'll get a lot of people
Well, we avoid
being
that.
on committees, right? I mean, so I don't know. It's just like
Well-
thinking through the practicality of that
What's
to
the
me
mandatory
is
training now? What mandatory conflict of interest?
Conflict of interest.
That's it.
And
I think
that's every
harassment in the
2 years.
workplace.
Do we do sexual harassment? Or-
Not for committee,
Not
Not for
only for
committee.
staff,
yeah,
not
So
not
it's
for.
only conflict of interest?
Not for
right. But
Yeah.
it's online, and so, I do think it's important, as the committees across the whole community, this is an important issue that I think is important to ask our committee chairs and others to participate in. So I'm not opposed. to
yeah. And
asking for it.
listen, I've also been to I've worked in a lot of big companies. I've been to a lot of these kinds of training. Some of them weren't very good. Like, so,
I know.
there's also sort of like training that isn't necessarily terribly helpful. So anyways, I just think there's a lot to think through the practical realities of asking anyone in town who's going to join a committee to start, kind of stacking on, mandatory types of
Right now, we're just
activities.
talking about
Just if-
chairs.
Right, we're just talking chiefs.
If we're
Dean?
just talking chairs, I think that argument doesn't fly because people would not be faced with it just to join.
Right.
If they want to step into the chair's role, maybe there's a little extra measure of training.
Isn't the
Carrie?
first step
Yeah.
to develop this training, develop the
Yes, I
online
just said
training?
that, but let's,
I mean, and then
Nancy.
implement,
Yeah,
I like the
Sorry.
idea of starting with chairs for the current fiscal year. I don't want to throw a wet blanket on this, but there is a cost associated
Right,
with
of
this.
course.
And the difficulty with establishing goals while we're in a fiscal year is if there's a cost that's not anticipated, we have to
Correct.
figure that out. I would assume there is an online delivery platform that is available for this.
Yeah.
So if we could start in the current fiscal year with training that could occur at the chair's breakfast, I think we also talked at the last meeting about adding time onto the monthly chair's breakfast
Yeah, we
to.
did that once and it didn't work.
Did we talk
Really,
about that last
we
time?
tried that.
You don't get all the
Well,
chairs there anyway.
with
That's true, and they're online too.
First, you don't get, and plus it's what Wendy was saying, the benefit of online is you can do it in your free time. You don't have to.
No, but the
yeah.
difficulty with online is there's going to be a cost that's not included in the budget. And we are not familiar with platforms. I'm sure they exist. I'm sure we could do some work to understand what that cost is.
Yep.
I'd like the analogy of the conflict of interest training, but that's something the state puts together.
Right.
And they
No,
push
you're right.
out to us.
Yeah.
We do training on cybersecurity. We get that from a vendor, we get a grant from the state.
That's right.
Yeah.
And,
We
and
do
we're
do that.
able to deliver that. So
Yeah.
I would assume there is something similar that could help, but I'm not aware of that
Mhm.
without doing more research.
So I'm just gonna, you gotta speak really close to the
If
microphone.
it's
Joe.
helpful, Andrea did prepare a few years ago some units for online training that could be done back, remember, for all the different businesses if they were interested. So there is something to build off of.
Yes.
So,
Okay,
we're not
thank you,
starting from
Joe.
scratch.
Great. Dean, were you trying to say something? I thought I heard.
No, I'm good. No,
Okay.
nothing to that conversation.
Okay.
So
How
I
should
also,
this goal read?
sorry, go ahead, Paul.
Let's get
Did
back.
you,
How should this goal read? This
Yeah.
is FY '27. This is to
Develop.
begin
Roll
to
out.
We
develop.
need to
How about
develop and roll out training.
Develop and roll out an online training for chairs of committees. And also enhance the quarterly, or I guess what we were talking about earlier was the quarterly training for staff. And I don't know if that needs to be enhanced or not.
Is it quarterly for staff? Or was that was
No,
the
no,
committees?
the
That's different.
governance is for board and
Governance is-
committee
yeah.
members.
So,
Is
I mean,
that the
it's-
quarterly one you were talking about
Yeah.
earlier? So we could add it to that as well.
We could add it to that.
No, I think we have to fill. I hear that it's more than the chairs that need this, but I would start with that. But I think we need to
Right.
evaluate this. This isn't static. We need to evaluate this during the fiscal year.
Yeah.
The
Right.
Success for it, and then expand it. I wouldn't
So-
just throw.
Yeah.
I wouldn't just throw it all at once.
No, I think that what we're saying, we're gonna start
Yeah.
with the chairs, right?
Yeah.
And then,
It's
let's see.
mandatory for chairs.
Yeah, we can make it mandatory for chairs. I think that's probably reasonable.
Great.
There's only 6. Yeah. Thank you. Diane Proctor?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Diane Proctor, 57 Sudbury Road. I wanted to speak to another goal, and that has to do with the permanent memorial. I loved Dean's distinction to make it a task force rather than another committee. And I hear your concern, Wendy, about it being yet again another committee, because it will have a goal, it'll finish it, and then that'll be completed. Given what we've just been talking about in terms of diversity and points of view, having watched that very closely on the 250 committee, it became a rather contentious issue how we built a memorial to celebrate the revolution. And I think the formation of that task force requires particular care in terms of how that group gets put together, how varied voices are put together, how they find time to meet broadly with our community, to hear what kind of memorial or commemoration would meet the broader needs of our town. And so in any way that the 250 committee can help to support that, in any way that any of us can who watched all this and worked with it, we'd be more than happy to provide that help. But I really do think, given particularly the conversation we've just had, that we could devolve into, again, contention in a town where we don't need that contention. In a way that we can find to work together, talk together, and reason together. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Okay. So I don't know if we're ready to vote on these goals, but I think we're 90%
They're
there.
close.
We're very close. So
More comment.
I'll revise these.
I think we are.
Are you ready?
I think,
Well, we had a lot, there's a
Yeah,
lot
I
of little
mean, I guess
revisions.
I'd rather
There's a
see
lot
what
of-
comes back.
I'd rather see revised
Okay.
versions.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's get it right.
All right, but it's very
you've
close.
got another hand up.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. Nancy? Presley Lee?
Hi, this is a good discussion, and I appreciate really what everyone's saying. The one issue that is raised in my mind is what Diane Proctor was referring to, and that is that the first forming a Rev War Memorial Task Force. The issues that came up with the Permanent Memorial Subcommittee, all the contention that rose up, I think will reappear. And I think that so Diana's right, how that committee is formed needs to be done really thoughtfully. And that's why I almost think that the other item, which is the possibility of having another advisory group or task force, whatever you want to call it, maybe is still important, because maybe that should happen first, so that some kind of, and I don't think a committee should be formed. I look at it more as a kind of a think tank about how Concord should consider going forward with all of these issues. Not a permanent committee, just a very short-term group to get together to try to iron out how we can go forward without the contention. I think that would be valuable before even the Rev War Memorial Committee was formed. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that comment. I do not see any more hands. We've agreed that we're not going to vote on these tonight, and so we'll do a little more wordsmithing on these and get them back at our next meeting. Okay. So thank you. Appreciate it. All right. All right, move on to Select Board Liaison Reports.
There was one other.
Oh,
Yes.
Board of
just-
registrars.
So sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, that was mine.
Board of Registrar
Yes, Board of
Committee member
Registrars.
nominations.
Yes. So, I'm sorry, thank you, Cameron, I appreciate that. So, just as a reminder, we talked about this briefly. So, we have a vacancy on the Board of Registrars. The procedure for the Board of Registrars is that in this particular case, the chair of the Republican Town Committee makes a nomination of 3 candidates for the possible position. There are 3 that were put forward. I've spoken to each one of these individuals, and I'm going to just give a little background. Jessica French, I'll just say up front, is my preferred candidate after speaking with these individuals, and is also Christine Reynolds' preferred candidate for this role. She was on the Chelmsford town meeting. Chelmsford has a representative town meeting, so she was a town meeting representative. She's been on the Transportation Committee, she's currently on the Board of Neshoba Brooks, and she's actually a delegate for the current Concord Republican Committee. John Brozowski submitted a application, but I think he did that mostly because he was asked, because they needed a candidate to be submitted. Casey Winslow also has a lot of history with the town. She's been on Public Works, Cemetery Committee, 250th, et cetera. But she does have some concerns about, because of the nature of her work, being available on a particular day, if that should be. So, and this committee does not meet on a particularly regular basis, but when they do meet, it's important. So, so I'm just putting forth for the Select Board my recommendation that this be Jennifer. As a candidate,
So-
Jessica.
Sorry, we
I said
just need
Jennifer,
one.
Jessica French, yes.
It's just
We
one
just need
person?
one, right.
Okay, because the way it's written on the agenda
Right.
is that we're going to appoint all 3.
To appoint,
I
oh,
thought
yeah.
so too. No, it's one.
So
Yeah,
okay, so we
okay.
are just appointing
Right,
one
the-
person.
Yeah, the process requires that 3 nominations be presented, and we appoint one. So
Gotcha.
I'm making a recommendation to appoint Jessica French to the
Second.
board.
I second that.
Can I make that nomination? I don't think as a chair I can make a nomination.
Well, I mean, I can make the motion, but
Yeah.
is there any, you
But yes,
seconded the
more
motion?
discussion.
Well,
Oh.
I don't think we've made the motion
I don't
yet, so
think
let me
we
make the
can.
motion. Then-
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion to appoint Jessica French of 247 Independence Road to the Registrar Committee.
Second.
With an end date of April 1st. Oh, I don't have it. I don't have the term date. Can you trust me? She's filling a vacancy or would be filling a vacancy, and I should have this in front of me, I don't have it. But we're going to
Get it
appoint her
right.
to.
We can, I think we can appoint her.
Motion to
We can
appoint
appoint
Jessica
her.
Friends of 247 Independence Road to the Registrar Committee to fill an existing vacancy.
Complete the term.
Vacancy. Sorry? Yeah.
Okay.
Dean, I didn't know what you just said.
Complete
All
the
right, to
term.
complete
Oh,
the
to
term.
complete the term,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Second.
Oh,
Okay. Mr. Banfield,
Aye.
Mr. Bohm,
Aye.
Ms. Hartman,
Aye.
Ms. Ravelli,
aye.
Mr. McKenna, aye.
Thank you, Cameron, I appreciate you doing that. All right, now liaison reports. Paul,
Just very quick, the Bicentennial Incident Reporting Work Group is going to have two public forums. One is part of the League of Women Voters First Friday on September 4th at 10 a.m. The second one is the following Tuesday at the Townhouse at 7 p.m. It's going to be a presentation of of what we present to the Select Board, what the system is, but we're also going to have a panel. Hopefully, we'll have the Human Rights Commission, the DEI Commission, the Concord Police Department, and hopefully Concord Public Schools on the panel, not to discuss the system per se, but to talk about how the information will be used, because that's a question that has come up. So, public forums, two opportunities, one right before Labor Day, right after Labor Day. Keep my fingers crossed that people don't take long vacations, and we're there. Thanks.
Cameron, any updates? Dean?
I'm good.
Yeah, two updates. One, we had a busy time with the CAC. Two members of the CAC had identified a grant opportunity that was going to need to be filed as of last Friday. And it was to create a go-forward plan for the Peter Bulkley building, which is actually a housing authority property, and decarbonize it and find a way to accelerate whatever they come up with, to accelerate that across the Commonwealth as a way to improve low-income housing decarbonization. It was a very short time frame. Megan Zamula got pulled into it. I consulted with Brad Dye, the chair of the CAC, with Megan. It was just not possible to pull it together. So that kind of got the kibosh during the last 2 weeks since we've last met. So that kind of went down. The other piece of the puzzle that I've been very focused on is trying to work with the school committee to get that CMS solar project kicked off and get it going. We are shortly losing the time opportunity this year to get it done this fall. We are very close to this being a complete fail for this fall. So I'm looking forward to, I've been working with Sandeep Prashardi to try to make sure that it stays in front of the school committee as a priority for them. And I'm hopeful that the school committee will keep it on their agenda to try to move it forward this fall. But that, to me, right now, we're really on pins and needles, whether that ends up going forward or not this year. And if it doesn't go forward this year, supply chain, investment tax credit, all kinds of things may fall apart for getting it done next year. So we're really in a tight spot this year.
Yeah, I know
That's it.
Jason's doing everything he can to work on
He
that
is.
agreement.
I completely believe that,
Yeah.
but it is still, we're not close.
All right, great. Well, I have no other liaison updates. So Cameron, you're all set? So otherwise, I'm going to adjourn the select board meeting of August 17th.